Hello, and welcome to Hold Up, a movie podcast. Last time we were knee-deep in disaster, and our guest was smart enough to avoid the entire situation. But that's ancient history. Today, we have our hindsight trained on three fantastical entries, so far a-pasted, even memory is outlasted. We're moving forward while looking back, because tonight's theme is prehistory. I am your host, Davan Skelhorn, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Chris Worldmind Murphy.
Howdy do.
Or as I think I'm going to be calling him later on in the show, Chris Bubblegum Murphy. Or Chris Candy Corn Murphy. Or we'll see. I'm starting to fight already, but I know it's coming. All right. I don't know. How are you feeling today,
I think the
Murphy?
one you're looking for is Chris
Are we going
Popcorn
at
Murphy.
it today?
I mean, I don't know. We'll talk about that. We'll see how it is. I'll just
All right.
just point out.
I was getting in some early shots just in case.
Yeah, I could
getting
tell.
that jaw of yours
I'm
nice
just going
and
to point
tender.
out right now. We were supposed to watch
What?
Jurassic Park. I had a lovely cover
Yeah,
created
but-
here.
But we all know
but,
how great
but
that movie
because
is.
disasters happen and you have to pivot, we had Adam Woodward come
Very
in
well said.
and switch the cards up, and we watched an interesting, thought-provoking film, one that kind of aggravated me, and we'll talk about that when it happens.
Well,
Just for
how's
the
it going?
record, I'm first of all, this is the hottest podcast to be. Everybody wants to be on this podcast, so thanks for having me. But that was weeks ago, Chris. Weeks ago. It wasn't just like yesterday. I was going to say that pivot just didn't happen.
This is
well,
a quick
I mean-
pivot, he says. Just a quick pivot.
Get
It's
over
fair,
it,
choice.
It's fair. We,
Get
we,
over
we
it,
did
man.
have time.
It's prehistory.
And I have gotten over it. I have gotten over it. It is history.
Well, clearly
It's
not,
prehistory.
because you brought it up. Right
I just needed
as I said.
to emphasize that for those that watch our show and are understanding the continuity, because when we left them last, we told them we'd be watching Jurassic Park. and we
okay,
didn't
well, that's
really
true.
do
We even played the
folks
trailers.
looking for the dialogue on Jurassic, then you can blame Adam, because that's the way it is.
But I'm on Team Adam on this one. I think the one Adam chose is a way better choice because I would only pick Jurassic Park to ask the question: is it the best thing ever? And Murphy was just gonna tear it apart. So we'll save that for another day.
I have my issues with it. It wasn't the worst film, but I do have my issues with it, and we'll talk about it. That
Not
being
today. But today, here on Season 1, Episode 18 of our show, we're getting there in our 20-episode season. So, exciting times. And we've got an exciting second season in the works for you. I think, Adam, you're coming back in Season 2.
Oh, for sure. Well, we'll see how tonight goes. But yes,
Well, Adam, we have another segment on our show you may or may not know. Origin Stories. So, Adam, what's with you in movies?
oh my God. So, that's a great question. Okay, so here's the thing. Born in 1971, my first recollection of a movie.
You don't look a day over 1973.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're
my
welcome.
first movie going experience I recall was my mom taking me to Snow White, and being absolutely terrified of the transformation from the witch to the scary old witch.
Okay.
But I remember
Sleeping
that
Beauty was scary too. Scared the shit out of me.
Yeah. but being vividly terrified, but just loving the experience, at the time.
Mhm.
And then the next one I remember seeing again with my mom. My mom was my sort of intro into movies, was Star Wars.
Yes.
And my parents went. I don't know what night of the week it was. It was a summer, obviously. And then my mom said, "This is good enough. We can take them." And she took me the next day again, and again, just being blown away and mystified. And then, that sort of was the catalyst. And I was, as soon as I could go to the movies on my own, I was walking to the mall, the Burlington Mall, and going into the old ramp style, and saw, countless movies over time. Anyway, and actually, I think my biggest count that I remember seeing in the theater was Indiana Jones Raiders Lost Ark. I think we went 13 times in that time that it was playing.
Did you ever sneak in a pop?
For sure.
I got caught. kicked out.
Yeah. And then fast forward years and years, because movies became such a big part of my life. I actually, when AMC movie theaters came to Canada in 1998, I was fortunate enough to be hired as the initial opening theater management team. So off we went down to Kansas City. I was trained for 3 months and lived down there, and then came up and opened a couple of theaters here, 5 of them over my time there. And I was promoted to general manager. And let me tell you, the best night of the week, bar none, was Saturday night at the movies. And
Better than Friday night?
Well, Friday night was just chasing kids. It was all teenage kids only. Saturday night was a different. Like everybody that works for a living doesn't want to go out on Friday. They're tired. Mm-hmm. Saturday became, between 6:30 and 9:30 or 10. That magic hour where people want to talk about the movies they see. They're excited to be there. And this is way before. This is 1998, 99, 20. So 4 years. But it was just more of an experience where people, and then again, they just wanted your opinion. They wanted to talk in the lobby. And it was all about customer service. And it was fun to interact with the customers and in the theaters. And I just loved that time in my life. Anyway, so again, fast forward, it's just movies until COVID were, and going to them, guys. I'm not talking about the movie going experience. For me, to go to the theater, to sit with people, hear the buzz, I love it. I still love it today. I just, with COVID, unfortunately, we sort of lost that rhythm that Callie and my wife and I were doing weekly almost, it seems. But where we have gone back and mostly for me, most recently in Barbie, just to be in a crowd that people are dressing up and excited and cheering with the movie and being part of it. You can't duplicate that at home. And then to be part of this tonight, guys, is for me really fun because I could talk about, as long as I've seen the movie, I can talk about it. And here we are. So
very well. Good origin story.
And if I could just mention one more thing, I don't know if you want to hear or not, but I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
Quest for Fire. I was, again, 10. And then in the schoolyard, you always heard about the scenes that were, where there might be a bit of nakedness being shown.
Look, Ray Don Chong is very beautiful.
Yeah. But it was part of that discussion back then. I remember James Bond movies were talked about, but it was funny because it was just sort of a boyhood thing, where you talk about, and we could never go because they were, one level up to where we could go to these movies. Back then, it was just one thing.
Who wasn't a young, teenage young man in the library looking up the National Geographics because,
I think
not me, Murphy.
I wanted to know about ecology.
No, I was looking at National Geographic for sure. But for the animals.
Of course, and the plant life.
The lovely photos.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well said. And it's just a different experience now, I think. Because back in the day, it was such a different crowd, I feel. Like now there's so many movies playing at the same time, the crowds just all separate into their niches. Whereas back in the day, only one movie was playing and everybody went because it was what was playing. So you just had everybody there. You had old people.
The Megaplex really changed the world of that experience. I worked in it. It was fine, but what I miss is and actually Titanic was, I think, the last movie that was in that kind of mass movie, not mass movie, in the old ramp style theaters that just went on and played for 20 weeks before it, petered out. So you're right. It's a very different experience now. Not bad. I love the evolution to VIP seating. I love the evolution to comfortable seating. And it's very, a friend of mine was actually in, where the heck was he yesterday? He was in a small town in Manitoba, and he was seeing a movie, and he flipped me the photo of an old ramp style, and I said, "There's nothing like sharing a pop if you spill it at the back with everybody in the theater, as it trickled down."
Oh yeah, I've shared a few pops. You know what you made me think of too, and I don't think I've ever mentioned it on this show, but one of the best experiences and feelings is that rush of people after a movie where everybody's coming out and talking about
it, yeah.
And you're overhearing what everyone else is saying about it while you're saying your piece to the people you went to the movie with, and it's all just very exciting and it's a nice communal experience.
There's nothing like an opening weekend on a big picture that people are generally excited about, so there you go.
What up, Boss Hog?
Hey there, Boss Hog, Hossbog.
I love that sort of shared experience, and also the impact of a movie that can have on you, one that'll make you like think, like I don't know about you guys, but
Like
one
The
of
Man
the
from
more
Earth.
profound movies. Yeah, yes, but I was going to reference more Arrival, the film Arrival. I'm sure you guys have seen that.
I remember that one.
It's
Wasn't Charlie
I remember
Sheen in
seeing
that?
No,
No.
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 But yeah, I remember seeing that film.
Oh no, wait, the
And
newer one. The newer one. There was an old movie
the new
called
one with the like
Arrival.
egg-shaped like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I saw it too.
Yeah.
Like Hawkeye was in that one, right?
Yes,
Yeah, exactly.
Jeremy Renner.
Hawkeye was it.
Yeah.
Jeremy Renner. So yeah, I saw that film, and it like warped my sort of perception on like time and all that stuff, and I thought about that film for a good 2.5 weeks, and I love a good movie experience. Like
In
that.
language. Like that one was
Yeah,
very
in
interesting
language.
with language as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
The
movie.
concept of language and being able to understand like all of time, and it's just like what a concept. Great film, one of my top favorites. But we should get into today's.
All right. Over at Theater 1, we have Quest for Fire from 1981, starring Everett McGill, Ron Perlman, I forgot about that too, or maybe I never knew, Nicholas Cody, and Rae Dawn Chong, daughter of Tommy Chong, directed by Jean-Jacques Annaud.
Is she really the
Alright.
daughter of Tommy Chong?
Yeah, man.
Oh, I had no
She
idea.
was in. She starred in his movie Far Out Man.
Far out. Yeah, I remember that.
Far Out Man. Yeah, exactly.
Like when I was looking at my movie morsels for this,
Oh, hi.
it was pointed out that it was like this is Ron Perlman's first film ever. Oh, wee baby. Speaking of pre things,
Yeah, seriously, she's 3 weeks early. Hi, honey. I wasn't expecting you yet, but that's fine. You're very cute.
Oh, she's wide awake.
Oh yes. Say hi to Murphy and Adam, and the hold up viewers. This is Ursula. She's very cute, very small, very tiny. Look how tiny she is. She's
So
tiny.
cute.
so tiny.
I miss those
But yeah,
days.
this is like Ron Perlman's
man,
first film,
it's great.
and apparently they cast Rae Dawn Chong because she was just completely comfortable with being naked, pretty much at all given.
Oh,
points
she
in
was a
time.
hippie girl, man. Like she's Tommy Chong's daughter. Like she was fine
Well,
with that.
Yeah,
She was probably
now
naked
it makes a
anyway.
lot of sense.
Like, yeah.
I wonder if the casting of Ron Perlman had anything to do with his general face, his looks. 'Cause
He
fits-
looks
my
like a
understanding,
caveman. Like a
Yeah, it's. I would say that would be the case because he didn't require as much makeup as the others.
What if he didn't want to be even an actor, and they're just like, "Hey, man, you look like a caveman. You want to be in this?"
He's
movie?"
walking down the
And he's
road.
like, got the
Perfect.
bug. Yeah, exactly. You're the perfect for this movie we're trying to do. He was just
Well,
like
actually-
visiting France. Or
The-
whatever.
the-
Like,
the-
I think this
okay,
is
so
filmed
I'm
in
gonna
France.
crack into this one. Ron
And
Perlman
Canada.
actually expected the film to be no better than a campier prehistoric movies, and he wasn't very keen with the director for a while in their first meeting. But they ultimately like became friends.
Because he called him a caveman.
I mean, he just after seeing the film, he was like, "Oh, you weren't messing
Oh, how
around."
sweet.
But yeah, let's
right.
check out the
You
trailer.
got a poster
here.
there? You got a poster there, Murphy?
Oh yeah, I
we
showed
got a
that poster.
There we
Yeah.
go. Yep, Quest for Fire. All right, fire up.
That's a really, like, when you look at that picture, that's a very
Yeah.
weak theater picture, like a theater poster. Like,
Yeah,
would you have that up? Too many words.
I would own that.
I
I love a good art poster,
It's-
and it's minimalist, but it gets the point across.
I do really like that top third.
I do too, Davin, and I think it's just wasted with not enough of it. You know.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, I
for me,
agree
it's-
with you. I probably wouldn't let it take up that much space on my wall for that much art.
Yeah, it's very. It doesn't tell you about this movie. Like, you know, science fantasy adventure Quest for Fire. Okay, now what does that
Yeah,
mean?
so, well, you know what? That's something I find really interesting about this movie before we hit the trailer, is it's essentially a precursor to, like, Walking with Dinosaurs and those types of, if you're familiar with those kind of, like, speculative documentaries and stuff. Like, they're a dime a dozen now, but this was, like, an early precursor to it where it actually still got, like, feature film treatment. So, very interesting kind of just piece of film history, this movie, because it's sort of like a standalone sort
Actually,
of
it'd be like, I mean, when you think that there's no dialogue in this movie, right?
Well, just grunts, and they say stuff, but it's just gibberish.
Yeah, but that's what I'm
Yeah,
trying to
it's,
say.
it's mostly gibberish.
It'd be interesting to know, like, if that's one of the first films that was ever released in like wide release that has no dialogue.
I wouldn't be surprised that with like how they do group
There was
movies,
another
where they give
one.
him dialogue and then they just have to grunt it out. Like they're like, here's what.
Because I think I
character's trying to
remember that
say.
being a big
Like-
part of like the critique at the time, is saying people were saying is like there's nothing to this. But
Apparently
actually
there
is.
there's another film that has no dialogue, but I forgot to write down the name for that one. But yeah, let's
Lots
check out
from
this
the
trailer.
silent era.
The dawn of civilization. Primitive. Dangerous. Exciting. Wet. And sloppy.
What is this?
Caveman.
What are you playing here, Murphy?
The
Is this
handwriting
one of your
is
tricks?
on the wall. If the human race is
What are-
ever
what are we
going to
watching?
amount to anything,
This
it
is
needs a leader.
1981, Caveman, starring
Will it be
Ringo
Tommy?
Starr.
Oh my god.
That is Ringo
I thought that looked like Ringo Starr.
It came out around the same time as Quest for
How
Fire.
about Gog?
Oh my god.
Gog is out of sight. And Atuk. Atuk sounds good. Atuk will be the leader of the Stone Age.
A toque?
It
You
was
ever
so
heard of the
ridiculous.
curse of a toque?
He will teach
Everyone
man
attached to a
walk
toque
erect.
dies.
He will discover fire. He will invent roast chicken. And fried eggs.
Callback.
Sunny
A
side up.
callback to Bridge of the River Kwai.
He will inspire the men. And zug zug the women.
Zug Zug, the
Zug-zug
women.
women.
Tala Zug Zug?
Oh my god.
Yeah. Atuk, Zug Zug, Lana.
Hey, that's Barbara Bach. That's his wife.
He will protect them from all the beasts of the earth.
Choo choo.
Ringo Starr, Barbara Bach, Dennis Quaid,
Oh my God.
Shelley
Oh
Long,
my god.
Shelley Long.
John Matuzak, Avery Schreiber, and Jack Gilford. Caveman.
Well, that's 3 minutes
They
I'll
don't
never get
call
back.
it the Stone Age for nothing.
Oh my.
I just needed to.
Wow.
I needed to.
Thanks
rip
for
you guys
that,
a little.
Murphy.
I just needed a little ribbon. I saw that. I was like, I can't not share this.
2001, A Space Odyssey was
But here's the actual
astounding
trailer for the
epic
film we watched.
that
which was
aroused
Post
a generation, telling them where they might be headed. Now, 20th Century Fox presents a science fantasy adventure that will arouse this generation, telling us
I'm
where we
aroused.
might have begun.
Ah, that sweet title intro with the swirls.
Adam was just telling us how it aroused this generation.
The whole, like, openings. Oh, so much crazy shit happened. I kind of remember this film as a kid a little bit. Like, I came across it
Me
on
too. It used to
showcase.
play on A&E and stuff. Like, it used to play on
Yeah, and I
cable a
remember
lot.
bits and pieces, but I never actually sat down and watched it from beginning to end. And I'm like, this film needs to be watched by everybody alive.
It is actually surprisingly watchable. I haven't seen it for a decade.
Yeah.
Like, I was
well,
hooked from
yeah.
minute one.
Well, because it just feels real.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like, okay, there was a few points. I shouldn't say it no point, but, like, they did a really good job of being like, this is a legitimate thing.
Yeah, like our sciences are pretty, like the science is pretty tight for what they knew at the time. And a lot of that hasn't changed. And, like, well, let's get into it.
Yeah. So the film obviously it opens up with the intro that 80,000 years ago, man's survival on a vast uncharted land depended on the possession of fire. And for those early humans, fire was an object of great mystery. And since no one had mastered its creation, fire had to be stolen from nature and had to be kept alive, sheltered from wind and rain, and guarded from rival tribes.
Okay, pause right there for a sec. See, that's the perfect premise for a movie already, right there. It's just like the time in history when people knew how to use fire but didn't know how to create it. That's
It's
just
awesome.
such a fascinating time.
But can you guys think about this? Can you imagine having to protect a flame
for your life.
for your life? Like,
For your whole life.
If it rained and you didn't have it, like you're just gonna freeze to death and die.
yeah, but it rains. There's,
It rains.
there's all kinds of stuff happening out there, like, and you're going hunting, you're doing all this other stuff while still maintaining that flame. It's just crazy when you think about that premise. I think it's amazing. It's a great story.
The presence
it's
of
a
mind
great
you'd
setup.
have to have, and just situational awareness, and it's amazing. All right. Continue. Mary.
So the
Sorry.
fire was a symbol of power, and it means survival. And the tribe who possessed fire possessed life, and that's all the setup you need. We get this awesome opening shot of just this vast, wondrous land, and this little blinking light, which turns out to be the fire. Of
So
the,
wait,
Oolong
this was actually
tribe.
filmed in Canada and in Scotland. I read as well.
Canada, Scotland, and Kenya in preserved national parks.
I thought
where,
there looked like some
obviously there's-
savannah or something. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's all sort of pertaining to whom. So like the Ivaka tribe, which is the Tommy Chong's daughter's character.
They're reminiscent of like Homo erectus, whereas like
So
Ron Perlman's people are more like reminiscent of like Neanderthals or something like that.
well, actually, no. It's the gorilla Wagaboo tribe that ultimately breaks up this little fire pit and this group of Ulams that are just sleeping together in a pile. You got like these twins and stuff like that. So the gorilla like Wagaboo and the cannibal tribe that we ultimately come across with these guys, they're Neanderthal. These guys are sort of like they're supposed to be in like what's the term? Cro-Magnon,
Like a
I think it
Homo
is.
habilis?
Yeah,
Cro-Magnon,
like
say that, but Cro-Magnon I don't think is like a species designation or anything like that.
Yeah. So anyway, these ones are supposed to be in line with the Ivaka tribe characters that we see later. But yeah, so these guys basically you get their introduction to the whole lot. They're eating their food. You get this guy sharpening a stick and stuff, and ultimately these ugly motherfuckers come through. Well, this guy's what was it? What did they say in the trailer? Zugzugging, one of his tribe mates.
Yeah.
That's when the attack happens. And this whole opening scene was just like brutal and chaos and crazy and bloody, and like this scene where they drop rocks from the cliff. It was just very. I was just shocked, and I was pulled in, and from there I was just like, oh, what's gonna happen? This dude has this little like bone lantern with the fire that he's trying to keep protected. All of this is happening when we sort of get introduced to Nao, who's played by Everett McGill, and through the brutality of it, he kind of emerges as the hero during the attack, protecting what he can, displaying his strength and being some of these gorilla-like Wagaboo. Although some of them sort of stick around. The ones that are alive, run for their lives from that tribe and the wolves themselves.
Yeah, the wolves chase them afterwards. It's like just a shitty day. It's like, all right, we got away from the attackers. Oh shit, the wolves are still chasing us.
Yeah, so they end up like running through this like whole swampy, not very smart area to survive, in my opinion, of all the places you could choose, but they go for like this shitty piece of land.
No, but
The twin brothers
spoiler alert,
die.
they never leave. Other than the party that small party that leaves. When they come back, everyone's still sitting there in the swamp. They've been there for like months. Like they just never.
So this
left.
is where exactly they're holding this ember up, and it's freaking.
Oh, here's Ding Dong.
Water everywhere. like it's the worst place. Pick a little drier.
It's just like, why is that dum in charge of the flame? Because he proves in this movie he's not the guy. Oh, there he goes.
Well, there he goes.
It's like, oh no,
he's
I
supposed
fell
to
in
be
the water,
firekeeper.
guys. Shit. It's like, why is everyone else walking in the shallow water and you, the firekeeper, is like fucking around in the deep water over there? Like, what is even happening here? Like, they're lucky they didn't like eat that
firebone
guy.
lantern was guarded by the firekeeper. It's just basically extinguished by the lantern. They do their best to try and like blow the fire back up. You know, they get it going, and you get this really intense scene of him just like blowing and watching the like ember go out, and he's just like, oh god.
Oh, they were trying. Yeah, man.
And they're all just sitting there freezing, and eventually this one like chick just picks up the bone lantern, puts it in front of him. It's like, you blew it out. You go get us more. He's like, all right, I guess we're gonna go get some more. And then there's like a small scuffle between some other guys in this group, and they wanted the lantern, but the old man's like, no, send them, and he gives it to them and sends them on their way. So they're on their way to find the fire known as Atra. We get basically Nao, who's played by Elliot, and then we get Amukar, who's played by Ron Perlman, and Ga, played by Namir Ali Kadi. These are the three that are on their quest for fire. Separated from the tribe, the trio embarks on perilous journeys across the land, and they encounter challenges and danger, including some treacherous saber-toothed kitties who are very, very hungry, which, like, I thought was funny because they're clearly, like, female lions with, like, dentures glued onto their face or something, but, like, it works. I'll take it. They chase them down up into a tree, and these guys have to spend, like, a night or two because they're trying to hide from the lions up into the basic point where one of them falls asleep and falls out of the tree, which was pretty funny. They're eating leaves and stuff. Like, they're doing their best.
It's amazing how they managed with no dialogue to really get a lot of humor into this.
Yeah, and also the tree they picked or was available. Like, just
the shittiest tree, man. Like, what are you guys thinking? All three
Look
of you.
at that.
Like, it does not look like it can hold their weight.
They're lucky, but, you know. It's a strong.
Ultimately, it didn't though. It didn't though. Ultimately, the branch broke, and our main character fell down, but he climbed back up. They realized that the teeth are gone, so they head out on their way. Yep. This is where they start following some smoke signals, and they arrive a little too late to find fire. But they sort of see a tribe in the distance, I believe. Oh no, wait. Before we got to that, there was the whole scene where they see like a tribe of like deer, and they're just like drooling from the mouth and just like yum yum yum, and they're like stabbing at the air. I don't know if you remember that part. I was like, this is kind of hilarious.
Usually they're called a herd of deer, but whatever, go for it, Murphy.
Whatever. I'm trying to like whip it together here. But yeah, so these guys eat their eggs, and they came across that smoke trail, and I like this part where they think they find it. They're looking for fire, and they start rolling around in the ash. It's probably the warmest thing that they've been near for weeks.
Oh yeah, and it just reminds them of fire and makes them feel like they're close to their target.
Yeah. Can you imagine directing you guys in that scene?
Okay. Roll around more.
They're like, all right, just get in that ash, boys. Like, get in it.
I want to see a cloud of ash come up. You know.
Yeah.
Oh man,
but yeah,
you'd be firing that out of your nose for like all night afterwards. That's for sure.
Yeah, Nahu digs through, and he finds a skull in there, and that's when Ron Perlman's character realizes he's eating probably another human being or some type.
Yeah,
he spits it out, and they're all a little.
I like the reaction though. Like they throw it all away, and like, yeah, man, this tribe is totally not cannibals. They're not having that at all.
That's interesting in itself, right there.
It is.
Where's the morality in not eating another whatever? It's interesting.
There was really no morality at the time.
Yeah, right? I mean, clearly that developed.
That's my point. That's my point. Why would it bother them? Why would it bother them?
Well, I mean, there was
at some point it had to become taboo.
Well, there was notion that there was sort of two genius of like ape that were evolving at the time.
Yes,
One of them was predominantly meat eating, and there was some that were just predominantly plant eating, and the ones that couldn't get plants or whatever ended up crossing over to like meat tribes and like having to mix it in with their diets. So like it could be like an offshoot of something like that. Like you just sort of like you don't assume whatever meat I can get. You just kind of get the meat that you're, used to hunting, basically. But yeah. These guys ultimately follow the smoke trail, and this is where they come across the cannibalistic tribe, the Kazama tribe, who've, there's one guy sort of snooping around. I like this scene too because he's like sniffing around and just sort of like holds open like the dead body like up in the air downwind from them because they grabbed like a dead carcass and they're holding the air. We also get notified that this is where they're captivated two tribeswomen. In this scene, they both have arms and they're both like tied up. But in the following day, you see this like this one shot, and I didn't get the screenshot of it, but it's just like this one woman who's hanging by one arm because her other arm is cut off and is currently being eaten upon.
Oh yeah.
By this guy. Yeah, and I was like, oh, that is grim. That is a grim sight and a grim mentality.
Just to sit there and watch Buddy eat your arm.
Yeah. So yeah, at this point, now Amakor and Ga decide to set up like a little like distractionary trap plan. They distract all the Kazama tribe, and Nao goes for the fire stick, but he realizes he doesn't have one. He goes back for it, and then we get this big man comes through with this big stick, and he goes for a swing, but he gets stuck in a rock, which I thought was hilarious.
Well, because he was trying to do a display first. He smacked it on the ground as a display, and it got stuck. It's like, haha,
so
sucker.
now it goes to the attack. They wrestle a bit, and that's when Buddy bites his junk. I'm assuming it's his junk that he bites.
Oh, yeah, he's definitely biting his junk.
Yeah, he's going for the junk. Ultimately, the tribes girls escape. I think I don't know if she was able to get the other one free or what, but she definitely ran for it.
Not that
Nao
we see.
gets his fire stick. Yeah.
I think that
Nao
other
gets
girl
his
just
fire
gets
stick
eaten
and
piece
extinguishes
by piece.
the other. Yeah. Nao also crushed his head with that rock when he was biting down on him, and then he crushed his head with a rock. And I felt like that was a poor mistake. I felt like that's just adding more force upon the claws that are. Or the jaws,
it worked, didn't it?
I mean, yes, it definitely worked. It got him off.
Sure did.
So, these guys, they get their stick, they head back, and that's when they started encountering the escaped captive Aika, who's played by Ray Don Chong.
Ray Don Chong, yeah.
Yeah. A member of the Avaka
talented
tribe.
And lovely.
She's trying to, communicate that she wants to help, but these guys aren't having any of it. After a little bit, Ga and Amakor, they end up going to do some, foraging. That's the word I was looking for. And that's when Aika makes her move, and she tends to help Noah's with his wounds. And I remember this scene specifically as a kid, because I was just like, whoa, is she like blowing him? She was actually just like tending to his wounds. As context would, provide with all the green paste and stuff. But, this is basically their whole introduction. This ultimately starts leading to this tribe and Ivaka, these three guys getting together, and they start making their way. But before they leave, they're surrounded by the Kazama tribe. And this was leading to my favorite scene in the film. These guys are basically completely surrounded, and when they think they're about to die, these woolly mammoths come up from behind, and it keeps all the Kazama guys back, right?
Yeah,
and they're like, whoa, right? Right, it was really lucky. So Noah has the idea to basically grab like a fistful of hay, and he offers it to the woolly mammoths. So wait, nope, that's the wrong one. Wait, did I? Yeah, there it is. Sorry. Like complete submission. Please take this. Don't crush my head. Obviously, yeah. I like this scene because it shows that they can have have camaraderie with animals, and they can be used to their advantage.
Well, yeah, the beginning of sort of animal husbandry and pets and keeping dogs. And...
Yeah. So, basically the woolly mammoths scare off the Kazama. Cool stuff. I was one of my favorite moments of the film, personally. Also, the fact that they're giant, basically circus elephants, and they're like funny costumes. Like, what's not to love, right?
Pretty great. The way they made, they did really good for 1981. There's a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. Just the
look
fact
of some
that
of the tribes is questionable to me. Like, they're covered in way too much hair. Like, that's a bit strange.
I think they tried to cover a lot of the hair with
bunch
like
of
just having them wear
orangutans running around.
furs and stuff, right?
Yeah, but it's weird. Anyway.
Yeah,
They
so
got fire
amid the
now.
flickering light of the campfire, that evening I had a palpable sexual tension that hangs in the air.
Quest over.
Armorcore.
They have the fire. No, quest over. Move on. Next movie.
Quest over. Yeah, well, they have to return the fire. That's a part of the quest, right?
Ah, yes.
They got the fire, but, they got to bring it back to the tribe. But, as country boys do, they kind of get enamored by city girls. And, Ron Perlman makes an attempt at Ica. He wants to get the Zug-Zug on, but she's not for it. And ultimately, Noah makes his moves and swiftly asserts his dominance and engages with Ica. Ron Perlman's not too keen on that. They all start making their way back. Ica sees the mountains that lead to her home,
Okay,
and
I'll
she's
bring it
pointing
up
at the
later.
guys.
There's a hilarious scene later.
Yeah. She brings it up to these guys that, this is the way home, but they kind of like leave it on deaf ears. And we get this pivotal moment that arises where Noah nearly stumbles upon the primitive technique.
Did we
of
just
flint
pass
knapping.
that? Was that the scene where like they were banging?
Okay, there's two scenes where they're banging. There's the first one where
but there's one scene where they're banging where like the one
and she
the
flips
other
it
guy,
around
like,
on him.
goes and tries to like rub up on like Ron Perlman's leg, and he's just like, "No, man." Like,
Yeah, that was the second scene. That was a little later.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
Yeah, that's later. But yeah, this scene is where Noah almost comes across the technique of flint knapping, that groundbreaking skill for creating sharp tools from stones. The progress is interrupted because of a comical mishap, sort of a stone dislodged by Ga. It accidentally hits Amarcor's head, and the sound of Ica's laughter is sort of an unfamiliar phenomenon to the men. It adds like this alien and somewhat unsettling dimension, and it becomes very silent and apparent that laughter is undiscovered luxury in their world. This scene was really cool. Like, they all just go like, "What is she doing? Like, what is this laughing that you're doing?" Like, they obviously don't know what laughing is.
Yeah, that was an interesting scene too.
Yeah, like, good stuff. So yeah, she ultimately wakes up and decides, "Screw this, I'm going back to my tribe." And the boys wake up to discover she's gone. They don't know what to think of it. They start heading back, but now it was kind of like, well, let's just say he's hooked on the snoo. So he wants to track her down, leaving the boys
Zug-Zug.
high on a cliff. Zug-Zug, yeah, thank you. He's looking for the Zug-Zug. He's hooked on the Zug-Zug. He wants the Zug-Zug. He finds a spot where she was sleeping, and he gets all like sad and like sniffs the hay. These guys start going, but he's just like, "Nope, I'm going after her." And they're like, "Well, I guess we'll wait here." He finds this hut, which I thought was pretty cool. He like tries to spear it because he thought it was a big animal, and then just goes inside of it. And I was like, "What's happening? What is this thing? What? How did they do this?" And he finds like a clay pot. And he's obviously on the trail of the Ivaka tribe. Those guys still chilling on the mountain, just like, "What do we do? We got the fire. Do we leave them?" But they don't. No, he finally finds the Ivaka tribe, and this is where he gets into his like quicksand, "I'm stuck in the mud" moment, and he's just like, "Help, anybody?" And they start throwing rocks and stones and trying to kill the poor guy and start laughing at him and just making fun of him. They drag him out of the mud, plop him in the plant sand. Like, he starts getting introduced to this like whole like very advanced tribe. They've got stone weapons and huts and
Pottery.
fancy body art and pottery, and they're clay masters. And she's just watching as her boyfriend's getting laughed at and poked upon. You know, he's getting fed a king's meal, like more food than he's probably ever fed in his life, and they bring in one of their girls, one of the plumper girls, to, you know.
No wonder she wanted to go back to her tribe, though. Like, they're actually competent, and she's just, like, with a bunch of dumb idiots, and she's just like, you guys are just cold and starving all the time. You guys suck.
Yeah, come see how I live. Like I said, you know.
The rest of your tribe's still just sitting in the swamp waiting for you, like dum-dums. Like...
So this tribe, you know, they want to be entertained, so they bring in one of their plump girls, and Nao does zug zug. And the old man whipping the stick in the air, like, come on now, come on, whip 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 whip, come on, get to it. I started cracking up. I thought that shit was hilarious. You know, sorry, I lost myself.
He's distracted by the zug zug.
Yeah, the Zug Zug. I forget what her name is. Aika, right? Aika, you know, attempts to sneak in on Nao and, you know, get one cuddle session, but she's ultimately scared off by the elders, which sort of adds this sort of like she has no power in this tribe. She's only there because it's probably what she grew up in. So she's enamored by the wild man of Nao. They bring him down to a cave, and this is where he starts to learn the sweet drill technique of using wood, poop, and, you know, a little bit of kindling, and get that smoke and that fire. And this scene was pretty cool.
The notch too, like she carves a notch in the wood, which is very important because you need somewhere for the ash to collect to create an ember. Yeah. So she's got it down.
Yeah, these guys definitely know what they're doing, and Nao just sees magic happen before him and brings a tear to his Cro-Magnon eye. It was a great scene. You know, he's really found the fire now. He didn't just find fire; he found out how to make it. He found the
ability to make it. Yeah, he's just like, I am the best at quests for fire.
Of course, we get this great scene where Amakura and Ga are stuck in the mud, and he's holding up the bone lantern, just like, don't let it drown. It's all we have. Meanwhile, you've got Nao like hanging out in a camp, all painted up, becoming one of the locals. And he, you know, comes out and he starts laughing at these guys because they're covered in shit, and they're like, "What is he doing?" Like, Ron Perlman looks so apish here; it's wild. They really cast him perfectly. Yeah. But yeah, you know, at this point, these guys eventually decide to make a jailbreak. They grab the spears, they grab the boy, and they sneak out. And Aika follows them because she's super like loyal to Nao. Then we get this like weird moment where everyone's just kind of chilling out, and Amakor drops a rock on Ga's head, and he like cuts him open, but they all just start laughing. And become
laughing. This is my favorite scene
too.
This is your favorite scene?
The rock?
Yeah.
They all learn to laugh?
They learn to laugh.
He's just like bled open too.
Yeah.
Yeah, this leads to them having a bit of a shower, and this is obviously the second Zug Zug scene where, you know, she flips it around on him and shows him something, and those guys are kind of like watching from the side like, oh, well, you wanna? And they're like, no.
Well, see, that was a significant thing. See, I saw something about that in like a newer documentary about these types of things. So the way that documentary portrayed it was like there were people like Ron Perlman's people that just were like running around naked and wearing, you know, buckskins and things, but like eventually they came across more advanced people that painted themselves in mud and things because that protects you from the sun and the bugs and stuff. So it's just more thinking, like they like she is, and that eventually what like humans were just they weren't monogamous, and like what this is showing is like the beginning of monogamy, and what they think created that was when humans started to look at each other during sex, because before it was just like you know, doggy style. And so, and then, so she's showing, she's just like, no, here's how we do it, because now we're like monogamous, so we look at each other, you know what I mean? Yeah. And that created like this bond between people that didn't exist before.
So yeah, as their journey progresses, the group crosses paths with the Ulam rivals, who had sort of challenged them earlier in their quest, for fire. Nao and Amakor strategize while Ga and Aika sort of stay back near a cave. This is basically where these two discover the cries of a bear cub on the inside. and the moment
Yeah,
I
like
saw
the
bear
last
cub,
thing you want to do. Is that a bear cub in that cave? Let's go look and see.
yeah, you hear cries and you're like, what's that sound? I was like, this is not good. This isn't going to lead to good things. And that's, of course, suddenly a massive brown bear emerges and starts
Mama
attacking
shows
Ga.
up.
Yeah, Aika runs
Mama's
for it.
here.
She's going to go get help. And these two have a nasty little struggle. Not on the like levels of that Leonardo DiCaprio film where he's like gets attacked by a bear, but you know. It
No,
gets
this
pretty
guy's better. This
gnarly
guy
with
friggin' holds up pretty good against the bear. Like, he's fighting this bear for a good while and not dying.
Yeah, he's
Like
doing his
Leo
best
just
to hold
lays
off.
down and takes it, but this guy's like scrapping the bear the entire time.
Kind of what it probably would be like with Leo, not so much these guys.
Yeah,
Yeah,
these guys.
the Leo
exactly.
one's more grounded in reality.
No, grounded in the time. These guys will fight anything likely. Like, they fight
Fair
saber-tooth
enough.
tigers
That's
and
fair.
shit.
That's fair. Yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, the group fights to save Ga, but obviously the rival clan sees the opportunity to sort of confront them, demanding the fire that they carry. And with equipped with the newfound stone-tipped spears and atlets.
Is that Ringo Starr?
It could have been.
Wrong movie.
Yeah, Amakor, Ga, and even Aika take swift and ruthless action against the Ulam rivals and decisively subduing them. And try, obviously, you know, they use those like cool spear things, like they throw the spear in the like stick. Like that was a pretty neat little like invention. I didn't know about those. Yeah, they like spear the hell out of these guys, kill them dead. Ultimately, these guys triumphantly return to.
See, they're still just sitting on that same little grassy island in the swamp. Like, how
Yeah.
stupid are these people? Don't
So,
go
yeah, they
back to
triumphantly
them.
return to
Just
that
keep your
tribe.
fire and raid on Chong and start a new tribe.
And this is where we get Davan's favorite scene.
Yeah, give the fire back to the firekeeper.
Yeah. With the big old ding dong. He made the bone lantern. He gets to hold it. Surely
I
nothing
think the
will go
thing
wrong.
you would do is just immediately
Get out
start
of the
setting
water,
shit on
man.
fire. Yeah, start setting shit on fire. Like, uh-oh, Ding Dong's got it. Oh shit, that deep spot again. I forgot about that deep spot. He says. They're all just like, what?
What did you do?
Like, boo. Yeah, run. Exactly. They're gonna eat you this time, buddy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that tribe
So-
becomes cannibal because they decided to eat freaking Firekeeper.
So, yeah, we get to this cutscene where everyone's chilling around the fire, and Na'o's sort of like, "It's all good, guys. Don't worry. I learned how to get a Bic lighter." So he starts doing the old wooden drill technique, but he doesn't quite get it. That's when Aika steps in, and she's like, "No, this is how you do it." She starts spinning that wood, really working it with her hands, and they get the fire. Ron Perlman, obviously,
You know, we had quite enough of your innuendo, sir.
It was in some endos in this movie, and in the endo, we get Noah looking at the
Jesus.
moon, and
Jesus
Ike comes to
Murphy.
cuddle with. And there's you know that pregnant belly, the next generation, as they sit around the fire, and that's a quest for fire.
Yep, that's a quest for fire. All right. Well, that leads us to which performance would you hold up? Adam, why don't you go first? Kind of tough in this
So-
movie, but
Are you talking about the three actors or?
anyone in the movie. But yeah, I guess it'd be the main 3 or 4 actors.
I want to go with. Look, I don't know how skillful they needed really to be. I mean, as maybe because they didn't. They just had to act. I guess act the role, right? Beat people up, follow direction well. I'm sure. I mean, it would be interesting. I don't know how many takes it took, but like I think that I would go with Ron Perlman, Rayon Chung for sure. She did a pretty good job because she's bridging sort of the two ages. I can go with that, and I did kind of buy her that she cared. The one thing I would say about this is that it like their steps up in the understanding of social relations, I guess, really happened quickly. And that wouldn't have happened in probably in real life. But anyway, it was good. I mean, but I would go with Ron Perlman. I always like him. It was interesting that it was. You say it was his first role?
Yeah, it was his first role.
Wow, he had a lot to say about the director at the beginning then. for being a new actor. Yeah, interesting.
He's always been an outspoken guy, so.
For me, I'll say Ray Don Chong and Everett McGill. I thought he was quite good. But...
Yeah, I was gonna say Everett McGill and what was his name? Namir Elikadi, the guy that played Ga, who's like the thinner, smaller guy of the group.
The guy who fought the bear.
Where he fought the bear. He had really expressive faces. Like he just had these like hilarious scenes every time you were in. And it's also just like yum yum. Yum, and just like the drool just like coming from his face at that time was intense.
Yeah. Well, what do we think of the setting and aesthetic? I mean, it looked good. They went to 3 different countries to get some nice scenery. The scenery was beautiful. I mean, the elephants that looked
what
like
was budget on
were
this
pretty
back then?
good.
You guys know?
Murphy will have that in his morsels.
I
Well, speaking of which, let's just do that then. You got some morsels for us, I bet there, Murphy.
I certainly do. So the movie Morsels for Quest for Fire in 1981. The opening shot was intended to be just a test shot and wound up in the opening scene because it turned out better than expected. The language used by the cavemen, which comprises all of the spoken dialogue, was created by Anthony Burgess. Burgess is best known as the author of the novel and film A Clockwork Orange from 1971, which I have a poster of back here. And the creator of the language Nadsat was used in it. Ron Perlman's film debut. Ron Perlman expected the film to be no better than campier prehistoric movies like 1 Million Years of BC from 1966. In his memoir,
or Caveman from the very same year.
Or a caveman from the very same year. In his memoir, he confessed that this caused him to be unnecessarily rude to Jean-Jacques Annaud during their first meeting, rather than take offense. Annaud was fascinated by Perlman's candor, and after initially hating each other in the early in the filming, the two would become close friends.
He's like,
everything.
Buddy Jean-Jacques, I turned down a role in Caveman for this. So.
It could be a good film.
We could have met Ringo Starr.
Everything in this film was shot live. There were no optical effects done in post-production, so it's all practical. Yeah, wow. Obviously. Like some of the
for the time,
yeah. For the time. It's so
there were no
practical.
lasers to add later.
Yeah, it's so practical. In fact, the set designer caught anthrax when he handled untreated animal skins. Fun.
What?
Yeah.
That's a good morsel.
Ray Don Chong was cast as Aika largely because she was completely comfortable with being nude between scenes. She remained nude on the set most of the time in full body makeup to stay in character. This is my favorite movie morsel. The Kazam tribe were played by wrestlers, and I got a list. They were played by wrestlers Adrian Street, William Giant Haystacks Calhoun, the Great Antonio,
Haystacks Calhoun.
Hercule Gaston Hayon, he was actually a Canadian strongman, Jean Gagnon, and this one is for the ex-goons, George Booza.
No way, George Booza was there?
George Booza was in there.
He's not a wrestler.
Apparently he did some wrestling back in the day.
What? I gotta get him on the show. Allison Seeley Smith says we need to get him on the show because he's got some crazy stories.
I would say yes. You could talk to him about this film. I'm not 100%, but I'm fairly certain he's the one that was sleeping in that like scene, like the sleeping cannibal with the bone through his nose, and the Great Antonio was the dude that gets the stick lodged in the rock.
I'm gonna make that one of my X points on Tuesday. Thanks, Murphy.
No worries. The language of the Avanka tribe is derived from the Inuit and the Cree of the northern Canada. Their dialogue is actually unintelligible in terms of this film's storyline, but it was cool to sort of like see that combination. And the movie was
unless you're Cree or Inuit from northern Canada, it's unintelligible.
Yeah,
it's like
he just said pancakes. Why did she say pancakes? The movie was originally intended to be completely filmed in Iceland. Australia and New Zealand were also considered. However, this picture was ultimately filmed in environmental protected locations in 3 countries: Canada, Kenya, and Scotland. This prehistoric drama was released in 1981, the same year as Caveman, 1981, and Mel Brooks' History of the World, Part 1, which had a caveman comedy section. The French title of this movie is La Guerre de Feu, translates to The War of Fire. The German title is Anfang war das Feuer, translate to At the Beginning Was the Fire. La Guerre de Feu is the novel by J.H. Rosny Sr. and is credited in the edition of Presses de la Cite. Instead of the original literary source, the editor promoted a new edition in 1982 in the wake of the film's success. And the final 2 more morsels. One of my favorites, Iron Maiden, the heavy metal band, wrote a song about this movie using the same title on their Peace of Mind 1983 album. So there's a song called Quest for Fire. Yeah, and I listened to it after I heard that, and I was like,
was it good?
Yeah, it's good. And yeah, the movie was so successful at the time of its release, both critically and commercially acclaimed, that the studio wanted Jean-Jacques Annaud to return for 2 sequels tentatively titled Quest for Water and Quest for Iron. He declined the offer, thankfully. Cinematography by Claude Agostini.
I would watch
edited
those.
by. I probably would watch Quest for Iron. I don't know about
if they were made.
Maybe. There could
No,
be
that's
different tribes.
interesting. No, that's interesting too, because there are times in like the Earth's climate just would have dried up, and all of a sudden that would have been everybody's main objective. You know.
So yeah, cinematography.
Don't worry about Adam; he'll
Claude,
be back.
Okay, Agostini, edited by Yves Langlois, music by Philippe Sardet, release date December 16th, 1981, running time of 100 minutes, budget of $12 million, the box office of $55.2 million.
Oh, we'll have to inform Adam. Budget of $12 million. I mean, not cheap, but not bad either for the day and what they accomplished with it. But like even all those international locations would have been expensive.
Yeah, traveling to the scene. So apparently, each location. So it was like the Ivaka tribe was supposed to be Kenya. The Ulam tribe was supposed to be like Scotland, and like they used Scotland Highlands for the woolly mammoth scene. And Canada was sort of like the Ulam cave tribe bits, and I think some of the
and fighting a bear.
And fighting a bear, yeah, that definitely had to be Canada. Apparently, they used 2 brown bears for that scene.
Yeah, baby and a mother.
Yeah, well, okay, fair enough. I thought 2 adult bears, but no, you're right. 2 a baby and a mother.
Yeah, it was a baby.
I was expecting. Okay, yeah, my head went one way. But yeah, I knew when I read the George Booza one, you'd be like thrilled about that one.
Oh wow,
I
am thrilled about that. I'm gonna go back and watch the whole movie just to see George Booza. But all right, so we'll get Adam's thoughts when he gets back. He just had to reboot. He'll be back. Rewatchability. I mean, I think it does. I saw it pieces at least more than once because it was on A&E and stuff all the time back then. I think it was A&E, one of those channels. Yeah, I think it is. I think it does have rewatchability because it's not like it has dialogue you can get bored of or sick of. It doesn't have any.
No,
it's just about following this. Yeah,
it's a movie that's so easily to empathize with the characters because they're not speaking, but you know exactly what they're saying.
basic concerns and basic needs that they're trying to
their
fulfill.
thoughts, their needs, their concerns, what they're trying
You know what
to
it's
get
like
done.
to be cold.
Yeah,
you know what it's like to be hungry. You know what it's like to be lost.
And
all
even
of
through
those
their
things.
gestures and just like general whatever, like the times when like, Ron Perlman's like eating that egg and the other one's like trying to go for it and he like tells him
He's
to
just
piss
like
off.
eating the egg as slowly as you could possibly ever eat an egg. This thing's pinky dips. He's like he's eating a Lick-O-Maid.
And Gal wants one too, and then he like tries to reach for one and they break, and like the whole thing is just like physical acting and pantomiming for the most part, and like just like it tells so much without saying anything at all, and I think it's incredibly impressive. I thoroughly loved this movie, and
I'm surprised.
rewatch
I
it
didn't
many
think you'd
times.
like this movie as much as you did, and I'm glad.
No, I love this movie.
Very
It's the
good.
best one we watched this round, for sure.
Ooh, my.
Like, yeah.
Maybe. Might be number 2 for me, but we'll see. Does it hold up? I think it certainly does.
Yeah, easily holds
It
up.
certainly does.
Without
I've
question.
seen similar type scientific documentaries and speculative documentaries since then, and this is as good as any of them, if not better, because it does add sort of that cinematic element. Where it's
Yeah,
not
no,
just-
like I said,
just
I
trying
feel-
to be the scientific recreation. It's trying to tell a story as well.
Yeah, I feel every human being on Earth should watch. It should be mandatory to watch this film at least once in your life.
So here's where we
Every-
came from.
Yeah, like you should see this. This is.
You think you're
gonna
cold?
Love it. Yeah.
You
I
think
thought
you've
about
been
that.
pissed off at a camping buddy before? How about that dingus dropping the fire in the water for the second time? You think you've been pissed off before?
You know what?
Like-
all right, here's something. Here's something I'm gonna relate to. You know that ding dong that dropped the bone lantern in the water? I
know
also,
that ding dong.
I've been that.
Are you that ding dong?
I've been that ding dong because I was standing middle of the river and I asked my buddy Sean to hand me his camera bag with camera gear.
Oh,
and I
no,
went to like
you
carry it over
fool.
and I did exactly what he did. I slipped and it went in the water and I immediately pulled it out and was just like horrified. I don't think Sean liked me much after that moment.
Very not.
Sorry, Sean.
Former friend. Adam, since you were gone, rewatchability. Does this movie have it?
I've done my 20-year watch, and I'm good for another 20. I think it was good. I don't need to see it again. No, I remember it.
Okay. So not high rewatchability.
No.
Okay. The budget was $12 million. You were wondering about the budget.
Okay. Look, the problem. I think for me, rewatchability is. Did it blow
It's a
me
tough one.
away? Is a story? No, it's not. There's not a lot to it, guys. I mean, yes, it was entertaining, 100%. But I don't need to go back. Okay, and I'm not saying go back in the way of musicals that suck either. I just don't need to see it again for a while. I remember it.
See, I could watch it again with somebody like if they haven't seen it. Clearly I'll remember it. I won't need to watch it for some time, but if I'm like another, like you said, 20 years, I could see myself watching
20
it.
years?
20 years.
Years. Good setup.
Fair enough. Yeah, not bad. All right, the big question on this show: does it hold up? I think it does. I think it holds up to modern viewing. It's better than a lot of these similar documentaries I've seen. And it's not a documentary, of course, and maybe that's why it's a little bit better. But yeah, sure does for me.
Like on that budget, I think it's fantastic. Like, they had that's nothing. Honestly, $12 million.
When you travel to 3 countries,
Yeah,
They
yeah.
boxed office. What was it? 55 million. 55.2.
They made
million
their
was the
money
box
back.
Office. Yeah.
Yeah.
that's real good.
So 6
For
or
those
40.
days.
For their
Alright,
efforts.
well.
Also, apparently, Elliot and Perlman both got frostbite while filming that at one point, but they're like, we loved filming that movie.
Because they didn't have fire. What did they think was going to happen?
Well, apparently they're
But
also
also,
going
to
to like.
your guys, like when the Super Channel and the Movie Channel and all that stuff was coming out in the late 80s, like this was one of those pictures that was put on there a lot. And then when the video stores came out, same time era, that was one of the ones that you go see because of the, for the
Radon Chong.
The Radon Chong. But it's just like, I mean, what they didn't make at box office, they certainly made in rentals later on, and streaming, whatever you call streaming back then. But anyway.
Well, just the syndication, sending it out to whoever wants to buy it.
Yeah.
So is that a hold up from all three of us? Holds up?
Oh, totally holds up.
All right.
I like watching movies today that didn't require CGI and still look really good. Now
that's why they look good. CGI for me almost never looks good, and it takes me out of the movie.
Yeah, the only scene that I didn't find, or I found less believable, was the mastodons.
They look
obviously, because you could even see when like its trunk's moving, like it's got like a flap of like furry skin that moves opposite of like the trunk. It's not very.
But as far as the makeup on the actors, and it was great, and the fighting was great, and it was all good.
All right, very good. Let's move on to theater 2, shall we? A pick I'm super glad Adam picked, because I didn't think to pick it myself. And look, I'll talk about that in a minute. But The Man from Earth from 2007, starring David Lee Smith, the great John Billingsley Phlox himself, and Tony Todd, also the great Candyman and Kern himself, directed by Jerome Bixby. So we've got some great Star Trek alum in this movie, as Adam and I care deeply about, of course, as hosts of Star Trek shows. And Murphy's getting into the old Trek. We're bringing him on. We're bringing him on board.
I'm slowly eking myself in, but I kind of feel... Okay, I'm gonna say my piece right now. One, I feel this movie may have been skewed in your guys' bias in favor because it's so Star Trek heavy related, which is not a bad thing.
I would say no.
No.
Okay.
No,
fair.
in its
All right.
Star Trek similarities, maybe, in the fact that it's like a philosophical meditation and a historical meditation, which a lot of Star Trek episodes are. In that way, yes. The fact that Star Trek actors are in it, no. Star Trek actors are in a lot of shit movies and TV shows.
So then my initial assessment:
Masters of the Universe,
Star
for
Trek
example.
ties don't add to the favorable scale in any point. So
I will. Okay, Chris. I will say this: is that John Billingsley, to me, we don't see enough of him post Enterprise. Like the guy's
He's a great actor. Great actor.
And
he shows up in a lot of TV shows for like one episode, but you have to watch all those
right,
TV shows to see him. Like, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and the second thing is
Well, look,
this
let
movie
me come in
presents
here.
a great
All right,
this movie presents a great thought experiment, which I enjoyed, but it reminded me a little too much of Scott Adams' God's Debris book, where it also presents a really great thought experiment, but it mostly just presents the questions, and then once you start getting into the nitty-gritty, it just presents more questions, and then that just becomes an endless lot of questions up into ultimately a kind of dissatisfying ending.
That's not what this is.
That's exactly what this is. That's what I'm saying.
No.
I found
answers. But like answers aren't as interesting as questions, for one thing. That's what.
Can I just interject here for a second, because I didn't see this movie ever until last year. My son showed it to me.
Oh wow.
Okay.
And I don't know if it would have attracted me, honestly, because it's set in one room essentially. There's not a lot of action. It's a very philosophical movie. Me too.
It's historical. It has so many fascinating historical notes.
Like when you read like the summary,
Men versus Jesus.
Yeah, but I mean, when you read the summary, it doesn't really grab you. You got to know a little bit about it before I would open the door. My son, again, I kind of trust his judgment. He's got good. So we sat down. I had no idea what to expect. I had zero. This just kept going for me. And this where I differ from you, Chris, is that I thought the end was good. Like it had a solid. Didn't see it coming. Didn't see that ending coming.
There are big twists and turns in this.
The sequel.
I didn't see the end coming, but like when I saw it, I was like, okay, he's been around this man for 10 years, and at no point did he not remember.
So
no, he doesn't remember him. It was
you want to
just
set
the
this
name.
movie up again because we haven't really talked about his bio yet.
Yeah, we're
All I want to
let's
say
just-
before we go through it is, I saw this movie when it came out, and it was immediately one of my favorite movies. And I hadn't really seen it since then. Well, I loved it so much then I watched it a few times, but like I hadn't seen it in how long has it been now? Like 13 years or more. And I was super glad that I still love it as much as I did. This is a top 10 movie for me. I love this movie.
I remember the trailer playing on the Sci-Fi channel. That's what I remember of this film, especially after watching the trailer. I was like, okay, I kind of remember hearing about this film, but I never sat down to watch it.
It's just...
Am I mad I watched it? No, it's a really well presented idea. It just wasn't presented well. You know?
I disagree. I think it's one of the best scripts ever. Like, this would be a legendary bottle episode of Star Trek. Like,
That's
this
what I'm
script is
saying.
really good. But
It
like,
would have been a great Star Trek episode. It could have lost like 30 minutes, but it was just
I don't think you could cut out a single line.
It
out
suffered
of this
in it.
movie.
No, it's not about the line. The dialogue's well done. Some
And
of
the
the actors I
performances
could
are
do
great.
without. Some of them
Billingsley
are.
and Tony
Not all.
Todd are really good.
Some of them are. But
Yeah, the
ultimately,
religious lady's
it
not the
suffers
best.
in of its production value and the cameras, the lighting, and like all that stuff. It's so low quality that it suffers the enjoyment of the film for me.
I think that
so
makes it a little more real.
Well, let's
Where
watch the
you
trailer.
just feel like
and then
you're
get
in that
refreshed.
room with these people. Yeah.
What if a man from the upper Paleolithic
didn't
survived
ha-
until the present day?
You know what could happen? Yeah, the pancreas turns over
Go ahead
cells
and talk
every
over the
24
trailer,
hours,
Ed.
the
Yeah,
stomach
you can
line,
talk
in
over
3
this.
days, the entire body. In 7 years, but the process falters. Now, if a quirk in his immune
See, I like
system
this.
you
They
guys let me know.
explore it from
Perfect
historical,
Perfect renewal,
and
yeah.
anthropological,
He
from
could,
biological,
duck
from like
decay.
they explore this from
We were just talking about a
philosophical, from so
caveman
many
who
angles.
survives until the
It's
present
just
time.
And he
fascinating.
hasn't aged a day in 10 years. Every woman on the faculty would give anything to have that secret.
I don't have eyes. in
That
the
was
back
a
of my
funny
head.
scene.
I can't hear a flea walking. I am not in any way Superman.
There have always been legends of such a thing, a creature, not quite human, taking not the blood, but the life force itself.
God has spoken through man to make his word clearer.
You got 4 men of science completely baffled, my friend.
Who do you think I am?
You are absolutely certifiable.
You stand alive and tall in a graveyard that you
That
have
guy's
to
in a
fill.
lot of things too, including Star Trek.
Then perhaps it's time to die.
He was the best star.
He's the guy from Office Space who has his jump to conclusions match. Yeah. Like, it's hard to make a trailer of this movie and not, like, give things away, I imagine. But I love
I mean,
it.
they
Like,
kind of do and they kind of don't. Like, I don't know. I'm like I said, I
let's
like
get
the
into the
questions they were
questions.
presenting.
let's
right?
get into it. Let's get into the things they talk about and talk about it, because that's what's great about this movie. Like, we had to watch 65 after this, which is just mind-numbingly stupid and bad.
I'm kind of disappointed we're not talking about that one first and then doing this one, but anyway.
No. See, we still have energy. We'll talk about intelligent things, and then we'll start smashing our heads off our desks and talk
Okay.
about 65.
So this is a very excellent. Like, I just love the opening of this film. It's like you see a guy packing his car. You don't really know what's going on, and then his friends show up to give him a sort of a send off. Again, just like, and this is Chris. This is where I like it. It's spontaneous. Like, I feel like it's a spontaneous whole evolution into the picture, you know, and
yeah, like, it's not this overly prepared or curated opening that would.
No,
be,
but you don't have a grand send off.
exactly.
You've got a bunch of weird academics.
Yeah.
Who, and I say that lovingly, by the way, that
Oh, sure.
that don't plan anything. They're just, oh shit, he's leaving. We got to go say goodbye, and then off they go. So, and it's just the start is like, okay, I'm hooked. I want to know more. Tell me more. What's going on?
Because he's like, oh, by the way, I'm leaving tomorrow, and like doesn't give them any warning. He's like, hey, friends, bye. And they're like, what? Maybe we should go drive over there. Like, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I was a little distracted there. I got a work message I had to deal with. Okay, so this film commences with Professor John Ullman, played by David Lee Smith.
Who I don't know from anything, but he's good in this. He's fine in this. He's not as good as Billingsley and Tony Todd, but they're greats. But
sorry guys, I just got to deal with something. Talk about this.
Yeah. Well, I'll start flicking us through this thing because this recap should take us like 10 minutes or not even because it's all dialogue and we're not going to go through all the dialogue. So his friends come over. They're noticing he has certain old artifacts, and he's just like, "Yeah, look, we still got furniture, but they're coming for the furniture in like the next couple hours." So
what wasn't the first thing they talked about was like a picture of Van Gogh that he had,
yes, they saw him loading a Van Gogh, but he's just like, "Oh, it's probably like a reprint or whatever." And she's looking at the back of it. She's like, "I don't know, man. Like, get this appraised because it's even
it's written to somebody."
To him, to Jean. To Jean. So that was interesting. So then they have the discussion. He's having his friends, and they're questioning about why he's leaving. So they're already grilling him. They're like, "Dude, so like, are people trying to kill you, or like what? Like, because he's been just offered tenure, and they all want tenure, and he's like 30 something, and they're all older than him, and they're like, dude, you got tenure at like 30 something, just take it. And then he's like, nah, I'm moving on.
But then he presents the question.
He does. He's just like, because he's been nervous and he keeps dancing around. They're like, dude, like you clearly want to say something. John Billingsley says to him. He's like, just say it. Geez, is this the end of the movie? No. Okay.
No.
So yeah, here we go. So yeah. So he's just like, well, what if? Play along with me here. And they're like, is this for a book? He's just like, well, say it is. Say this is for a book. And let's just start the conversation. You know what I mean? Which I like. He just wants to get the conversation going. He doesn't know how because he's never done this before.
But again, can we just talk about the characters 1 second here? Because everybody's in the room. I love this setup. You got the cool kind of professor with the young girl. Probably your graduate
Not the
student.
cool professor. You get the creepy professor who's dating his student. I don't like that guy. I'm like,
No, that guy's terrible.
Yeah.
Then you got the other ones, probably like that woman there, the religious one.
Yeah.
It's just a very eclectic group. But
There's a biology professor, the anthropologist.
Yeah. But you've got this thrown out, an anthropology guy. You got this thrown out there, this question, and maybe you want to read it out there what the question was, but you can see
he's just like, well, if a Cro-Magnon from the Upper Paleolithic, he doesn't say Cro-Magnon, he's just from the Upper Paleolithic, but it's like survived till today, what would he be like? And they just start to figure it, like try to hypothesize what he would be like.
But it's the perfect audience. You got who they wrote into this movie now. You got everybody.
Which he says later when he like tries to be like, I was just kidding. He's just like, I had the perfect audience. I had to do it, So, but like, it's interesting because John Billingsley's like, look, he would be basically the same as us. He's just like, he's just as intelligent as us. It's just they would just know less. It's just like, how much do you know? And that's another interesting thing in this movie where they keep.
Hang on. All right, we're passing my favorite scene or. "Quote unquote favorite scene." All right, I'm back into this. Sorry.
So far, what he says fits.
Oh, yeah, into any textbook.
And that's where I found it. How can I have knowledgeable recall if I didn't have knowledge? It's all retrospective.
All I can do is integrate my recollections with modern findings.
Caveman. You gonna hit me over the head with a club and drag me into the bedroom?
You'd be more fun conscious.
Oh, John.
Oh, John.
Okay, now it's not the "Oh, John, hit you over the head" conscious line. It's the knowledge before knowledge. How can I recognize anything? That's not how knowledge works. This is like the first big plot hole in this movie that drove me insane. He's supposed to be of age of 35, and he stops aging at 35, and he proceeds to live the next 14,000 years.
Yeah.
Only catching pneumonia a couple times.
Yeah.
Apparently dodges all the wars. Doesn't get shot, stabbed, killed at any point. It gets tied to a cross. It's like there's so many plot holes that he. But the biggest
that's
one
not
was
a plot
saying,
hole.
I
Murphy.
didn't.
Let me
No,
tell
no,
you
hang
why
on.
that's not a plot hole.
The biggest one. No, hang on. The biggest plot hole I personally found is when he's like, "How could I not know what knowledge is of knowledge?" That's not how knowledge works. You are going to know that. Sure, you don't know this is a tree and this is a leaf, but the day you know that what a tree and a leaf is, you're going to recognize that. So for him, at one point, he says, everything
That's not what he's saying there.
Everything prehistory is muddy, and I can't quite remember
Yes.
it because it's
Yes.
been ages ago. I call
Yes.
bullshit on that. I call bullshit
What?
on that explanation.
I can't
Yes.
remember what I did last week, Murphy. And
Doesn't
you expect
matter.
somebody to
You're
remember
gonna
something from
you were gonna
14,000 years ago.
You are
no,
going
you're
to remember
not.
running
no, you're
from your
not.
life. You're going to remember running for your life from a saber.
He says he remembers
tiger,
the
a bear.
traumas. He says that's the things he remembers, the traumas, and that's
But he
about
doesn't
it.
talk about any of them. He doesn't talk about like.
So
how
he doesn't have all day.
He doesn't.
Those are
he doesn't have
irrelevant to
all
his
day.
story. Like, yeah, I was chased by a saber-toothed tiger once. That tells them nothing. That's not a plot hole. That is how knowledge and memory works. What he was talking about when he's saying that's not how knowledge works is he's saying, he's just like, because they're like, well, how can you not be the smartest guy in the world and not know everything? He's just like, I'm still just one guy all the time. Like, the most I can know is just like what one person can know in any given place at any given time. Like, you could be 10,000 years old and not even be the smartest person in your town.
No,
And
but
that
you
would
still
be,
have
like,
10,000 years of knowledge and advancement of skills above
And
anybody
let me tell you
else.
about that why that would be muddy to him, other than the fact that you definitely can't remember that long. Like, people forget almost everything they've done in their life by the time their life is over. Almost everything. Like, of all the moments, you've already lost 99.9999999% of all moments you've ever experienced.
Can I just expand on that for a second?
Yeah.
Kevin? 'Cause I was with some friends, and I say friends, it was excellent to be back. But I hadn't seen a few of them for almost 29 years. Okay, 29 years. And they were talking about stuff that I was there, but it took prompting to recall. Like, I mean, I do buy the fact that you do lose things along the way. Now, Chris, I understand where you're saying traumatic events and things like that, but at the same time,
He remembers those, he says.
Yeah, you want to push them out as well. So, I mean, I don't think it's a plot hole. I think that maybe they could have gone into it, but they only had 2 hours. So.
Exactly. And also, the reason why those first 10,000 years are a blur to him is because for those first 10,000, he's like, it all changed at Mesopotamia, and then I can remember things and place things. That makes total sense, because before that in human history, for that 10,000 years, nothing changed for humans. It was hunter-gatherer life. That nothing changed drastically for 10,000 years. Every day was the same as the day before and the day after for 10,000 years. And then Mesopotamia happens, and all of a sudden there's city-states, and all of a sudden there's people creating laws and coming up with like arts, and like then civilization happens. But before that, every day was the same for 10,000 years. There would be no benefit to remember it, and so you wouldn't.
Okay, so I think he's going to remember the initial moments of his life, and...
Do you remember the initial moments of yours?
Yeah, I remember many initial moments of my life. Yes,
Do you remember being born?
No, I don't remember being born. There's obviously
That's the initial moments of your
past
life.
the age of 5 or 6, I started having recollections of memory, and into my teenage years,
How many?
I can remember certain events and moments.
How many memories can you remember clearly from when you were 6, for example? I maybe have one.
Being in the basement of my father's basement, being surrounded by 3 of my friends, playing with an audio machine, and that audio tape on it was the Monkees. I remember hitting the record button over that Monkees tape, and my dad being mad about that.
How long ago was that?
When I was 6, so like 31 years ago.
As opposed to 14,000. You want to compare those experiences.
No, that's what I'm saying is okay, Davan. The fact is, even if it's 14,000 years ago, the only thing that's going to change is his perception of time. 10 years is going to feel like a month to him at best, but I don't think he's going to completely forget about like the key moments that made him in his existence and the person that he supposedly is.
But
that started at Mesopotamia, but because before that he was a hunter-gatherer who did the same thing every single day for 10,000 years.
And he's not gonna talk about the animals that he.
Why would you talk
encountered.
about that same? He did, and he said he even knew the painter who painted those famous cave paintings in France. They killed him. Remember, they stoned him to death for like, I don't know, like something died. They stoned that guy to death or some shit.
You know, listen, if you want to talk about favorite parts of the movie, like, there's a part in the movie where they're talking about the realism of this, but they're talking about how there's absolutely no way to prove what he's saying is correct or true.
Yeah.
There's also no way to disprove it. And that to me is my favorite. You know, like he's right. I mean, this guy could be making up anything, but it's a great story.
Other than go
story,
to his
yeah.
lab, which he rejects. He's like, come to my
You know
lab.
what
He's
else?
like, no, I'm not going to your lab. I'll never get out of your lab if I go to your friggin' lab.
Which is a good point. Like, there's lines that it's well thought out, and every time they would present a question and be like, "That sounds like bullshit," then they would start explaining it and going into it further. But then they would immediately interrupt those thoughts with another question, and then they would like kind of get lost on these like little tangents of whatnot in here now. And it's just like, I found it kind of irritating because again, I find the biggest plot hole. He's like, "Oh, I only got pneumonia a couple times." It's like, no, there's no way you survived
the other
all
thing
of
I
that
wanted
without
to
getting injured.
mention. Okay, that I've thought about that too, and I'm like, the sickness thing, that's easy. They even say he has perfect cellular regeneration. So like a man, would he have to be sick to actually get sick? Like he would never really get sick. But to avoid being killed in 14,000 years, that gives you pause, and you're like, well, how is that possible? And for me, he had to be really lucky for the first couple hundred years. But after that, after you've gained more experience than anyone else you'll encounter could ever have, I bet you get really good at avoiding conflict. And certainly avoiding wars. Like, if you've seen 1,000 wars start, you'd walk into a town and friggin' immediately know if, like, shit's about to go down. And you'd find a way to avoid it, you know what I mean? If you've been through the horror of war once or twice, and you have that benefit of experience that he has, you'd find a way to avoid it.
You know what else I liked about this is they didn't do a oh my god, there only can be only one. Come on, help me out here, guys. They didn't have him have all of these riches and stuff like that tucked away.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, he basically had the painting and like one thing that he says he got from a shop. I feel
he has personal items. Yeah.
Like, how does he not hold on to like a spearhead or something from like his first tribe? Like, I don't see him.
He explains that. He pulls out a pen and he's just like, "How long would you keep this?"
Right.
He's
okay,
like,
but
he's
that's,
like, if I lived for 10,000 years amongst spearheads, what significance would any one spearhead ever have to me? Why would I keep it? What benefit does it have for him? He's gonna live forever for all he knows. Why would he care about a spearhead?
The memory
now,
of
a painting given to you by the painter, I see why he kept that. You know, but like, why would he keep a spearhead?
Well, it's
a tool to him. That's why he makes the pen analogy. He's just like, why would you keep this pen? You wouldn't.
Okay, it could have. Like, I feel like now. I honestly feel.
And how much shit can you carry with you?
If he had loved somebody, and they gave him something, he would have held on to that. That's what I feel like.
He did the Van Gogh painting.
That's a painting from her friend. I mean, like from his like prehistoric times. There was no examination of his prehistoric life, which is ironic because this episode is supposed to be about prehistory. Everything was after prehistory, and it was an examination of what it'd be like to be thousands of years living through these eras of times. And
but that's the beauty of it, is that
anything.
He didn't have to prove it. Like, either these guys accept it or they don't, you know, and then he didn't care.
It's a story or it's not. Care. Yeah, he doesn't care. He's like, even if you do believe me, no one's going to believe you. And 2 months from now, you're not going to believe me. Like, you may believe me now, 2 months from now, you won't. You'll be like, oh, man, what a friggin' story that was. Like, yeah.
But
that is the beauty of it. I agree.
Like, I just love the way, like, the whole bunch of these guys all get into this and this whole debate, and they try to keep poking holes in his story, but they can't. And yes,
and then they eventually believe him, and then he's like pulls the rug out from under him, and they're just like, "You son of a bitch!" Like, you freaking.
Well, it's only because the psychiatrist is like, if you don't tell them that this is a hoax, they're gonna go crazy. Eventually, their just brains are gonna break over the concept.
Really, it's just his brain that's breaking over the concept. But you come to find out his wife just died the day before, and like he shouldn't really be there in this room.
And he's like walking around with like a gun and shit. It's like
he's seriously like, yeah.
But yeah, like the it's just like this lighting it suffers. There's so much about the production value of this that ultimately makes this idea.
But this
suffer.
isn't the movie to nitpick production over. It's not like everything in this movie looks better than the CGI dinosaurs from '65. Which don't even look like dinosaurs. They just redesign things into these weird ogre goblins, even though it's supposed to be on Earth 65 million
I'll
years
get
ago.
into that. Don't worry.
That's
don't
crap.
worry about
this
that.
This is just a dark candlelit room.
You're not okay. One, you're not wrong about the CGI dinosaurs in '65. But two, you're not going to tell me that there were shots in '65 that weren't better looking than shots in this film. You can't say that to me with a straight face.
It's a different movie. You can't even compare them.
Movie. Like, you're going to compare
yes, it's a different movie
standing in a room to somebody in a
go back one screen, please. That's the set right there. That's the set.
I know that's the set. That's what I'm saying is that this film idea, the presentation of this idea suffers because it only had a budget of like $200,000 and was literally.
What do you want? What would you add? Like, do you want them to go for a walk?
Better lighting.
Like,
I would have.
Like,
no, I would have just added better lighting and given them a better space, which could have provided more depth of angle and like provided wider lenses and just a production of better value in that. That's what I would have liked.
No, see, that's what I don't like about modern movies. It would just look unrealistically pretty.
This is what I deal
This is
with
supposed to be
every time.
Look,
this is supposed to be a place that's being torn apart as they're sitting here. Like,
like for me,
what do you want?
guy,
How pretty do you want? How many lens flares do you want?
He doesn't. He lives in a crappy little place. Look at there's soot up the fireplace. Like, I don't. This was like
which would be a big place to him. Probably.
It was a dialogue movie. It was a conversationalist movie. We didn't.
Yeah.
I don't. For me, I didn't. And I didn't need more. I got everything I needed out of this.
Anything you would add would only distract from the conversation.
I don't even know. It could have been lit better, I guess. But
what does
that's what I'm saying.
What's better? But what does better mean?
But hold on.
Look at all this negative space. Look at all of this negative space in the left corner.
Let me just say here.
What's the problem? It's a talking movie.
Hold on.
Yeah,
when I'm watching this scene particularly, I'm watching her and him. Like, I don't give a shit about that left side. It's not. It didn't distract me.
That's like the definition of nitpicking. You're not supposed to be looking at the wall behind them.
Yes, I'm allowed to nitpick over the design of a film because I think ultimately it suffered. Like, again, this is a well presented, like a well thought idea. It's a great thought experiment. It just could use of a better camera, better lights, a little bit more, money to go into it.
I don't know what kind of camera they use, but
I do. And they're not great cameras.
2 handhelds or something, wasn't it?
It was 2 Panasonics.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah,
that looks great for handheld.
Just barely. It's serviceable.
$200,000 is not a lot of money. Holy crap! I mean, that would have been eaten up by
all.
That's how much this film cost. $200,000.
Oh my God! Like, you got to pay.
That's
that
all
John
talent,
Billings.
then, man.
Yeah,
it's literally
that's all
talent in the cameras and probably catering and set.
That couch that he decides to keep. The $50 couch they got at, like, Value Village.
So yeah, basically all the friends start leaving this party, and I guess this is basically where we're getting to your favorite scene, Davan, which is.
Oh yeah.
John Oldman. What other pun names have you used?
Lots. John Paley for John Paley.
I just love how accidental this is.
John Savage.
In a lesser
got really
movie,
crazy
this
about
would have
60
been
years
intentional
ago
from
when I was
one-
teaching
one
at
of their
Harvard. I was
perspectives.
John Thomas Partee. John T. Partee, Boston Tea Party.
I get it.
Yeah, I know.
Wait. But Boston? 60 years ago? John Partee?
And then he immediately recognizes what's
You
happening.
did not
This
teach
is dramatic.
chemistry.
I can't
I cannot believe you.
Your mother's
How does he
name
not keep track of his
was
children?
Noah.
How does he not know that
No.
he's been hanging out with his own child for the past
Yes.
10 years?
Nola.
Because he's chosen not to keep track of his children, because you would
reject
go see
this.
them. I have children. You would go see them.
My thoughts
You
then.
would, like,
That's what I'm saying. Why is he gonna, even though he can
and he
live
probably
forever,
did
why is he gonna...
for a couple hundred years. Maybe he did try doing shit like that, and it just was a nightmare. And like after all these thousands of years, like this is what he's settled into as the only way he can exist, which is to leave everything behind every 10 years, which is understandable when you think about it, because he doesn't age. That is a problem. He would be a lab rat. Now, I don't know.
I found this movie had a
Before
ton
they
of-
said they would
basically-
think he's a witch, and like they chased him for being a witch or a vampire. Like they say he's the. Or I love one of the things I like about this movie is all the historical things he sort of was the cause of, whether it was like the vampire myth or Jesus or all these things. Like you probably would. It's like It's like Forrest Gump. Like Forrest Gump was in all these moments. Like this is like a longer, stretched out Forrest Gump. Like if Forrest Gump can do all those important things in like 20 years, imagine the things you would show up in. Like knowing Van Gogh, like nothing he says is unbelievable because he's had so much time.
And that whole evolution, how he got to be Jesus, like from studying Buddha and then going to Europe, like it's just cool. It's just like it's just.
I love what he says about the apostles too. He's like, well, they weren't really apostles because like they didn't really teach anything. Like the fisherman guy, he just learned how to fish a little bit better. Like, that was pretty funny.
Yeah, like don't get me wrong. Like, those scenes were like the dialogue was really well done, and it went through. I feel like it definitely gave more explanation on him being Jesus than anything else in the film. Like it was briefly touched upon everything up
They
until
pushed
that
him on
moment.
that.
Yeah. Right, and they talked
Because she
about
was
that. I think
religious,
that's what this
and she
film
got
won
all
was just
upset.
like an examination of like, well, what if Jesus was actually alive? What if Jesus was a caveman? It's just.
I think that's one of the main things they wanted to explore. But I do
Yeah.
think they wanted to explore this sort of like protracted Forrest Gump idea. Like, what if somebody lived for 14,000? Like, I feel like this movie started like spitballing the script and everything. The way the scenes start, just like, well, what if? And let's just brainstorm that. Like, I feel like it felt like the writer's room of the movie they're in. Like, those initial scenes. There's a lot of interesting stuff in this movie.
You know what else was kind of cool? Like, looking.
I know your like cameraman brain wants to nitpick those angles, and that's fine. But for this movie, that is 99% about the script and the performances, especially the script, I would say. Judge it on those merits. Like, that's what it's about. Like, you may see some camera issues, but I guarantee that people who made this movie didn't even care about that. So it's not like they failed at it.
It's
It
very
just
clear
wasn't
they
important.
didn't.
Yeah.
No,
that's- 'cause
the
that's not
whole
what's
thing
important.
is meant to be for Michael Bixby because it was his last great script idea, and Jerome Bixby's like, well, I gotta make this for my father, and I'm gonna make this no matter what, and he made it no matter what, All I'm saying is just like,
if I could just jump
if
into
it
it.
had better presentation. Go ahead, sorry.
All right, let's just get on to the next thing. But what I want to say here is, again, from just a screen play and watching the interaction in the act, it was really refreshing. Is not what nobody could whip out a phone and get distracted.
Yeah.
It was just a conversation. And you mentioned 12 Angry Men before, Chris. Like, there's another great picture set in one room, with just dialogue, and it was so powerful.
And that's an example of a movie where it's people stuck in a room with dialogue and really good production value behind it, and it makes it easier to ingest the information that's being presented to you, as opposed to this one where the quality ultimately suffers. The message suffers because of the quality. It's dated.
But
it's
not
very,
much.
very dated.
Like, like you can't take a script that good and say like, the lighting fucked that up for me. Like,
yeah, I didn't walk away feeling that either. Look, I can't tell you whether I would like it better if it was lit better. I can't tell you that, but
I don't think it would add anything. Like I'm just so enthralled by the things the characters say. Like to me, every line is needed in this movie. There's not one wasted line.
Okay, well then,
that
all
I
right, then
love.
let me
I
throw
love
this
that.
wrench at you. What really ultimately bugged me in the presentation of this whole thing was the audio design, was the very noticeably bad ADR in some scenes, and on top of that, the unnecessarily bad music in some other scenes. Like the scene where he gets into I don't know. One explanation of about
It's all
him being
just
like Buddha or Jesus. It's just like super heavy,
stock
drummy,
music. It's just
like stockish music, and it's just I
stock
would have
music.
honestly, if they had no music throughout the film, or at least a good like 80-75% of the film, if there's no music and it was just the dialogue, I would have been way more brought into it. But the music was pretty distracting, frankly. You know, I can get over
Murphy,
like
I
bad
didn't even
ADR
realize there
scenes.
was music in this movie.
I'm
'Cause
surprised
so
'cause
enthralled
it's
by the things
so
people are
apparent to
saying.
me.
Well, and it's just forgettable, like you said. Like, but again, like that's I don't know. All those little like periphery things are just like so not important with this movie. It's just all about the script and John Billingsley and Tony Todd, and they carry it. Like, yeah, man. And you know the guy who comes in with the gun, he's good too. I forget that actor's name. He's in everything, but I forget his name.
I feel like I should have it right. Dr. Will Gruber was played by Richard Riley. Riley? Or R-I-E-H-L-E? Riley?
Richard Riley?
Yeah.
Really?
And he's been in a lot of stuff over the years.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, let's. Which performance would you hold up, Adam?
Okay. I would. I think all of them. I can't think of a one of them that was bad in the role. Even the professor that was the religious one, like she played the role so well. Like I totally
She was
believe
just
it.
annoying, but that's
Yeah.
who she was playing. Yeah.
You know, I thought
was
that the
Maude
love
Flanders.
interest, the love interest was great. She was again like generally like I felt that she was upset with him leaving, and the fact that she loved him, and you know, just I just thought the
When she leaves, she's just like, "I miss you, but you weren't Jesus."
yeah, but
He's like, "No, of course I wasn't. Of course I wasn't."
the whole cast stood up. Like it was good. It was not one of them I would say I could have done without.
Except
John-
for the guy that played the biker archaeologist dude. Could have done
No,
with a
I liked him. I thought it was you got like.
I hated his character, but he played it well.
He played it well. Like, you know,
Like he seemed like a guy who was legit pissed off to be in that room. Like he just seemed so friggin' agitated.
Yeah.
He played it well. Yeah.
I thought they played like I said it before, the academic crowd, they nailed every one of them.
Yeah. I'll throw mine to Tony Todd. I really enjoyed Tony Todd in this one. But
Yeah, he was great.
Billingsley too. Johnny Walker Green. I didn't even know they made it in green. He's like, I love that line. I've probably said that like 50 times. Every time I go into a liquor store, I'm like, Johnny Walker Green.
I think the way he articulates and the way he speaks is just like it's masterful. It's enjoyable to watch.
Unique. He's unique in his delivery. Yeah. As is Tony Todd. He's such a memorable voice. You know.
I'll give it to Richard Riley. Just because
Yeah, he was great. Yeah, again, you felt the grief, the anger.
I cried.
Yeah.
And the fact that you know that his wife just died and it kills him. Like his wife dies, he finds out who his father is, and the stress of it all kills him.
Yeah.
Like, man, what a twist at the end of this movie. You're like, damn. See, but it's brilliant because that shows you why he does the things he does. He's like, it's all just death and heartbreak for me unless I just cut ties. And he tried to
Which is heartbreak enough.
Yeah. But it's like the lesson
which is
one. It's
heartbreak
like cutting off an
enough.
arm
You can
instead
never
of
have a life.
Yeah.
It seems.
It's a heartbreaking movie, man. Like, if you put your, like, you know, in his position, put yourself in his position. And it's when he asks them, they're like, oh, like, living that long would be great. He's just like, would you want to, if you could? You know, they're all like, yeah, it'd be great. But he's like, yeah. I don't know. Setting aesthetic, we know Murphy doesn't like it. So we'll see what Adam thinks about the setting aesthetic.
Again, it doesn't need any more. It's a one-room movie. I'm happy with it. I'm glad there was no meals, even other than the little snack. But it was perfect.
No distractions. No distractions from the brilliant conversation they were having. I agree. Yeah, to me it's serviceable, and that's all it needs to be.
You know what else I liked about it? There
this
wasn't
movie
even
could have
enough
just been
furniture.
standing around a tree. I don't care where this movie.
There was not even enough furniture for everybody to sit down at. They're sitting on the fireplace or sitting, standing on the floor.
And that was realistic,
Yeah.
Yeah. It felt grounded, which is good because it's such a kind of crazy story. Like, all right, let's hit some more.
You should just went the Are You Afraid of the Dark route and did it around a fire pit.
No, that's cheesy. Except when Are You Afraid of the Dark does it, of course.
So, movie morsels for The Man from Earth 2007. The whole movie was shot using 2 Panasonic DVX-100 camcorders, which probably explains the overall grainy look of the film. The story is Jerome Bigsby's last work, which he completed on his deathbed, or actually, I think is it Jerome Bigsby? I thought it was...
no, Jerome's the son.
It's not. Yeah, Jerome's the son.
director.
It's Michael Bigsby. Yeah, Michael Bigsby's last work, which he completed on his deathbed.
Oh, it can't be. Michael Bigsby must be his son.
Yeah, really, 1882
Look at the
to
age.
2007. Yeah,
Oh,
that's
wow,
crazy.
yeah.
Oh, this movie's even more
Okay.
sad. God damn it. God damn, this is a sad movie.
So, all right, the story is Jerome Bigsby's last work, which he completed on his deathbed in April 1998. Bigsby dictated the last of the screenplay to his son, screenwriter Emerson Bixby. That's the one. After Jerome Bixby's death, the script was given to Richard Schenkman to direct on a budget of just $200,000 US, the equivalent of
Imagine even making a movie for that.
$282,266 these days. So, the film was shot in 8 days after a week of rehearsals. There were no deleted scenes for this movie, only 3 deleted lines, as explained by director Richard Schenkman in the DVD commentary.
And that adds to it, It feels like a conversation they all just have for an hour and a half. Like, it doesn't feel like there's cuts and stuff, and I like that.
At around
Just
an hour
flows.
and 18 minutes, this is no news to you guys, but, the Tony Todd character's Dan mentions that he's going to go home and watch Star Trek. Tony Todd appeared in
Yeah, I
7
love that.
episodes and 1 video game of Star Trek since the 1990s.
That's a good nod.
John Billingsley also starred in Star Trek Enterprise, and screenwriter Jerome Bixby wrote several episodes of the original series. Richard Riley also guest starred in episodes of Next Generation, Voyager, and Star Trek Enterprise. Yeah, he's the man that wrote Mirror Mirror.
Okay. I don't like that episode because I don't like the Mirror Universe. He gave us the Mirror Universe. Damn you, Bixby!
Yeah, Bixby wrote Mirror Mirror, and he wrote like 4 others, I think. I forgot the titles, but that one stood out. I was like, oh yeah. Just before the 1 minute mark, the Vasquez rocks can be seen from the less dramatic side, showing the moon on the left of the screen. The Vasquez rocks have been used in Star Trek TOS many times, to the point where they evoke the original series and have often been used to reference Star Trek and other shows.
Every Star Trek series uses Vasquez rocks.
A character similar to John Oldman, a seemingly immortal Mesopotamian named Akharon, going by the name Flint in the episode, appears in Requiem for Methuselah from 1969. This episode is also written by Jerome Bixby. Methuselah, yeah. A very similar initial premise, but the plots developed differently in a 1960 Twilight Zone episode, Long Live Walter Jameson. And as she's leaving, Edith, the literalist Christian, pauses and kisses John on the cheek. This could be a reference to the biblical event of Judas kissing Jesus as he portrays him to the Roman soldiers in the Garden of Gethsemane. As Judas is betraying Jesus, Edith also betrays John's message of what he, as Jesus, was actually trying to teach, and instead chooses to continue to believe what she has been taught by the interpretation of the Bible as written. Cinematography by
That's what's
Afshin
funny. She's just like,
Shahidi.
you cannot compare this to the true word. And Tony Todd's like, what true word? It's been revised like 15 times. It's like, yeah.
Cinematography by Afshin Shahidi, edited by Neil Grieve, music by Mark Hinton Stewart, release date of November 13th, 2007, running time of 89 minutes, budget of $200,000. I couldn't find a box office for this. It just says budget.
I don't think it had a theater release.
No, it basically was like released on DVD and Sci-Fi channels, and its popularity gained through people just torrenting the movie.
It's good. It organically gained its following, man. Like, no horseshit, no $500 million in advertising to trick you into seeing some shit movie. Yeah, man. Respect. All right. So, what do we got here? Rewatchability. For me, it does, just because I find it's like any like really thoughtful Star Trek episode. Those are the ones I can watch again and again, like Measure of a Man, like Far Beyond the Stars, like In the Pale Moonlight. You know, the great duet.
Or the ones you want.
Duet could just take place in a jail cell and outside of it, and that's a fantastic freaking DS9 episode. You know, but sorry, Adam.
Yeah, my feeling is the ones you tell people about to go watch.
Mm.
You know, and I've told countless people after I watched this just over a year ago to see this movie, go watch it. It's to me, it's like you need to see it again just to catch more, because there's a lot going on in that, a lot of dialogue, and you might miss a bit. So you're right. It's show me more, show it again, just you know. And it's not one of those ones I need to see every year, but certainly I'd go back to it next year and watch it again. Now, the one mistake I'll say is they did the sequel, which I don't think was good.
I didn't see it.
Yeah,
I didn't watch it. I saw the trailer. The trailer
I don't see
looked
what
better.
you would do.
It was interesting because somebody recognized him and they, tracked him down and all this. And it was interesting.
See, that ruins the mystique of the whole thing.
Yeah, it did. And I watched back to back.
Some movies should never get sequels, and this is one.
Yeah, this is one of them. Yeah. Don't bother. John Billingsley was in it, by the way. He was in it. John Billingsley was in it. Yeah.
Same character and everything, probably.
Yeah.
He
was the friend.
It looked better.
I don't think I'm gonna go see it.
It had more sets.
Yes, I'm sure it was the picture of a modern movie. It looked very shiny and was hollow garbage.
See, now combine both of these films. Okay, you can take all the bad stuff of the sequel, just give it its budget of this first one. They could have redone the movie, and I would have been like, all right.
Might not have had a better budget.
I don't know if it did or not.
It just would have had newer cameras because it came out years later. They just whatever cameras they rented just happened to be better.
But you know what though? That does show there was enough interest and enough desire for something more.
Yeah, true. Like no theatrical release and still get a sequel. I mean, I guess a lot of shitty movies do. How many Sharknadoes is there? But this is a good movie, not a shitty movie. But,
I think they just dropped.
Does it hold up? Does for me. It's still a top 10 movie for me. I love this movie. It encapsulates everything I love about Star Trek, except in the reverse. Rather than like pontificating about the future, it's pontificating about the past. And I'm a historical nut too, so it hits all the boxes for me. Good performances by actors I enjoy. It's a unique movie. You don't get movies like this because you can't release them in theater. People want flash and explosions and stupid shit. But like, this is just a fascinating way to spend an hour and a half. It's like having a conversation, and you don't even
could
have
been
to
an hour.
It's like having a conversation with those people. No, you can't cut out a single line of this movie because then it's confusing. Like every line is servicing the exploration that they're doing. It's not like you could cut out 5 minutes of a car chase there's no fat. There's no fat to trim. There's no wasted pauses between sentences. It's just a fast-paced, intriguing conversation for me. Adam.
For you. For me, it doesn't hold up. It's not the best production value. Oh
my god. I'm going to judge every movie you do bring to this show from now on production value only. Because apparently that's all that matters. You have to have money. Money talks. That's what makes a good movie. Fucking money.
No, Davan, what makes a good movie is that it needs to be entertaining, and I didn't find this film entertaining.
You weren't fascinated by this conversation.
No, I thought it was because it was all just going to lead to
You're not
like,
gonna like
him
Star
being
Trek,
like,
my friend.
I was Jesus. No, I like Star Trek. I enjoy Star Trek.
The musical episode.
I just this wasn't for me. This wasn't for me. It was so slow paced and just like, let's talk about whataboutisms and then not really answer any questions. We're just going to give you more questions upon questions upon questions. We're going to make you think about stuff, sure, but you know, that's all we're going to do. We're just going to give you more questions. It felt like
Adam.
It felt like Lost. It was a J.J. Abrams like style storytelling.
No, it's the opposite of J.J. Literally the opposite of J.J. Abrams. I detest everything he's ever done.
It literally presents questions
For
without
all
any answers.
No, no J.J. Abrams thing has ever asked a question. An interesting question.
All of Lost is presenting questions that are never answered.
Yeah, but like stupid things, not like intriguing things about history and like biology.
But my comparison
philosophy.
holds. My comparison holds.
No, it doesn't. Adam,
Yes,
tell
it
Murphy
does.
why he's so wrong.
He is.
Like,
I can't believe you brought Lost into this because
it's the opposite.
Yeah, it is.
One's hollow trash just to keep you coming back week after week, and one is this like earnest and
Yes, but
just
the
conversation.
storytelling method of I'm going to present you a question without giving you any form of answer holds because that's
What
what
answer do you
happens in this
want?
movie.
But that's a conversation.
What answers I want is I want some explanation on his prehistory. I want more explanation on why he
Why?
just says
Why do you want?
it's all
Why do you want him to
might.
belabor the fact that every day for 10,000 years was the same? What do you want? More do you want? That's what Quest for Fire
I want to
is.
know
That's a
what
different
events
movie.
he was a part of throughout human history.
He told
that were
you,
actually,
and they weren't the
he hung out with
caveman
Buddha
ones you
for
wanted to
fucking
be
80
about.
years, and then he gets confused as Jesus for
Yep.
another 100, and then what?
Yep.
What did he do? Did he like?
Think
did
of
he
that-
have
that-
any
that-
part of the
France for a
Inquisition?
while.
Like,
But
how
Chris,
did he avoid wars?
Wait a second. The conversion or the leap from the following the Buddha to Christianity and becoming Jesus, like that is monumental.
That's not a profound like leap for me.
is.
I've had.
You
that-
want him to
I've
talk
had that-
about somebody that threw a spear at him in prehistory when he's talking about studying with the Buddha and shit. Like, you're like, I don't understand why he doesn't remember
he said he
spears.
talks.
But-
He studied with the Buddha, but he's like, oh, I learned like body meditations. Like, okay, you spent 80 years with Buddha, and you've got nothing more to say other than that you studied.
No,
with the
but
Buddha?
the point is, he did have
There's
more
only
to
so
say.
much time in this
He
movie.
did have more to say. He went and became, the father
A
of
teacher
modern
to teach them.
Christianity. I mean,
Yeah.
Anyway, listen. To me, this
It's like I took those teachings, tried to modernize them, and such and
Yeah.
such.
I
got
appreciate
put
the
on a
fact that you
cross
wanted it to look better. That's fine. I mean, I can even buy that, because it didn't look great. Fair, but it didn't for me.
I just didn't want to have plot holes.
For
either.
me, it didn't detract. I was engaged the whole picture. So
You have yet to isolate a plot hole.
well, I think that he probably could. So let's not go there right now. But the
Do
point.
you want me to reiterate the fact that the man lived 14,000 years without being injured other more than pneumonia? He didn't.
Yeah, but
he didn't
well,
have
no,
one
sickness makes
experience
sense. He has
at
perfect
all in
cellular
all
regeneration.
of those years where he's like, one time I was stabbed in the chest, but hey, I survived. He
Yeah, but
like
that
what about
doesn't
what
matter,
about him
Chris.
being?
Yeah, why
No,
would
it
he
does.
mention
Okay,
that? Why would
okay,
he
here,
mention
let
that
me
in the
lay this out
context
for
of
you,
this
okay?
conversation?
Jesus
sure,
was
lay it
put
out.
on a cross and he was stabbed in the chest with a spear. What happened there?
He never said he was.
How
stabbed
did he
in the chest
survive
with a
that?
spear.
Yes,
He
he
never
was
said he
stabbed
was
in the
stabbed
chest with a spear before he was crucified.
That's not what he says.
No, of course he doesn't. He glosses over that. That's what I'm saying. He doesn't go on about
because
any
that never
injury.
happened.
He never said. There's no chance.
Why are
in
you
hell
obsessed
that
with
man
his
lived
injuries? Why would those be
because there's
important
no
to you?
chance in hell this man lives 14,000 years without coming across some sort of catastrophic collision with something. He would have been struck by lightning. He's been on Earth
No,
that
you
long.
wouldn't.
He actually has
Again,
a chance of being struck
he
by
has the
lightning hundreds of times over.
If you lived that long, why would you go out in lightning? Why wouldn't you learn that
The
going
point
out in lightning
being,
is a
the point
stupid
being,
thing?
Chris, is that he's got the longevity. He certainly can handle some things. Now,
okay,
listen.
Let's look
hold
at it this
on.
way.
Let me finish. Let me finish.
Okay,
Argue
okay.
about the whole stabbing in the
Okay.
side and all that stuff. I mean, did that really even happen? Who knows?
Exactly. He
And-
didn't say it happened, so he said basically everything you know about his life is bullshit.
Yeah.
So
Like,
any of this
somebody's
stuff that
written-
you think, yeah,
Exactly.
unless he said it happened to him, assume it didn't. Because that's what he says. He's just like, he was sneaking away and somebody just happened to see him. That was pretty funny, actually. He was like, so I was going to sneak away all freaking slick like, and but he's just like, ah!
Okay, it's still the
Hey
biggest
guys,
plot hole
I
in
gotta
this
run
film
up
is
and
the
get my I gotta get my battery pack. I'm gonna go here.
Yep.
I'll be right back.
All right.
All right,
All I'm
let's
saying is
move
the biggest
on.
plot hole is the fact that I've lived 35 years. I have cut myself, hurt myself, damaged myself multiple times. You know,
How many
I've
of those
had
things killed you?
None, but enough to like
None,
I
and
have
you don't have
scars
perfect cellular regeneration. He says he doesn't scar because he has perfect cellular regeneration. They close that plot hole for you, unless you can kill him. Like, and he even says that he's like, I might just friggin' like another reason he like leaves people behind and stuff. He's just like, because I might just like step out in front of a car and die. I don't know that. He's just like, but he's like, you would get very good at avoidance. Like, you wouldn't live for all this time and just get stupider at like running into trouble. You wouldn't be this teenager.
You
Watch
can't
the sequel,
avoid
then. Watch the
ants.
sequel. Watch the
Oh,
sequel.
why does that explain some of that for Murphy? Yeah.
Maybe I
watch the
will watch the
sequel
sequel, and it could make the first film better for me, and that could be a whole different thing. But like as it stands, I have more questions about this film and the plot holes
But
that were
that's
presented
good.
to it than
It's making you think. So what I don't
I'm
like
not
about
saying
a
it's
movie is when
bad,
I watch it
Davan,
and there's nothing there. Like, there's nothing. It doesn't make me question. Doesn't make me nothing. Like, that's a bad movie experience.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing in any way. Like it presents excellent questions, but it doesn't expand upon them in the way that I was hoping for, and it leaves me unsatisfied, and therefore I'm not entertained or satisfied with the film as a whole.
That's fair. That's fair.
But you're entirely wrong.
I disagree.
That's
You've never
fair.
been
You
more
guys-
wrong, except since Gremlins. Like, there's Gremlins and this.
Gremlins 2 is a better movie.
But see, that's the this is what happens here. See, every now and then Murphy gets this thing in his mind that skews a movie for him. For one,
Even Kevin
he's not
agrees.
watching Gremlins as Gremlins. He's just like, I'm watching Gremlins, and it's not as good as the second one in my mind. So I have to just like not even accept Gremlins as existing as a good movie because it's not as good. It's not that it's not a good movie. It's just this other movie's better. So it can't be two good movies. It has to be a good movie and a shitty movie. Like, that's what you're doing here. You're like, this was a good movie, made me ask questions, and, you know, it had lots of interesting dialogue, but the lighting was shitty and just not a good movie. Like, it's like
I didn't
man.
say it's not a good movie. I was just, oh my god,
You said it doesn't hold up.
It doesn't hold up because I feel like its production value definitely doesn't hold up. Like if okay,
But what would for that budget? Like, what?
Hold on, though. How can you compare? Let's go back to the last
Yeah.
movie. Quest for
Yeah.
Fire. Production value sucked. Okay, it really wasn't very good.
but
You
it
know,
was the
compared-
81. This is
So?
2007.
But it had
Well-
way more money than this did. It spent 12 million or like millions of dollars
Yeah.
to make in 81. This
To
got
go to
200,000.
the vast landscapes and shoot
Inflation?
incredible scenery. The biggest
Inflation?
the biggest downfalls of Quest for Fire was like the Wagaboo makeup, the saber tooth, the woolly mammoth, and probably the cannibal tribes makeup a bit, you know. But like the main characters, the Avaka tribe, that all stuff looked cool.
Look,
There wasn't a moment of that where I was like, that's seamless, you know.
Okay,
Like
here's my thing. So, but if I turn in Quest for Fire on in 2023 for first time, okay, and I'm thinking, man, this looks awful, and it really does. Like compared
Especially
to what
once the elephants come on. Then you're like, oh my god.
But you can't really go wrong when your movie is set in a living room. That's all there is to it. Like, what's the worst thing is that they got maybe older clothes. You
Like,
know?
I think that's... I get it from your perspective a bit, Murphy, just because you're like, you're into cameras and stuff like that. So, like, you're looking for that kind of stuff. But there's... No, if I'm making this movie, there's... Like... I have to, like... You run your cost-benefit charts, you know what I mean? There's no benefit to adding extra cost to this movie in any significant degree for for the things you're looking for, because that's not what this movie's about. Like, if this movie cost $200,000 to make, I wouldn't spend another $10,000 to make the light better. Like, that's too much.
I would.
Budget. But it adds
I would have
nothing.
added some background lights.
The
It probably
benefit
could have used
isn't
a bit of
there.
side lighting.
Why would there be
There is
background
benefit
lights
there.
in a cabin? Like, it would just remove from the realism. Like, it
Because
wouldn't be
there's
worth the
background
money
light-
spent.
I've got like lights
it,
on.
it
in my
would make
kitchen,
like a
you know,
couple
like-
of camera wonks happy, and they just spent like $10,000 on Chris Murphy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, for the mass
not a-
audiences who just are gonna get sucked
Okay.
into this conversation. Like,
The vast
there's
audience
no sense in
isn't-
spending
no,
money.
that's what I'm trying to get at here. Is if you want to present your idea, you're going to want to present the idea in a manner that makes it easily digestible. You're not spotting
What
the
was
flaws.
what was the undigestible part? What about the lighting makes this dialogue?
Like I spoke about it earlier. The
undigestible?
lighting,
No,
the
you didn't.
audio in this movie is terrible. The audio balancing in this movie is terrible.
You can hear
They could
every
have spent
single
another.
word.
You could hear every single word, yes, but they had to use a lot of ADR. They could have done better with audio recording and balancing in general. The music and everything was terrible. There are scenes, I shit
Dude, you
not,
liked the music in that Star Trek episode the other day.
Yes, because that was actually music that was produced. Unlike what you think is AI or whatever claims you were going on about in the podcast, the music that was like, okay, the music that they did for this film, apparently the guy had to phone it into some dude in UK who was producing the film.
Yeah,
or
it's
the
just stock
music.
music.
All right,
'Cause again,
I
there's
don't
no
know if it was
value to
stock,
spending
whatever it
money on
was.
that.
The music, in my opinion, was abrasive and very counterintuitive to the film. Here's how I would have filmed this. Okay, I would have taken out 80% of the music. I would have used deep lenses. I would have used a bigger set. I would have given it better lighting so it was more balanced.
Why a bigger set?
All this does, Davan, is present a seamless and clear image for people to get sucked into the conversation that's happening. Okay,
A bigger set sucks you into a personal conversation.
compared to today's standards of image quality and sound quality, this movie does not hold up.
No, I want to know what a bigger set adds to this movie.
A bigger set adds the ability to get better camera angles. Not I'm crunched up against a cabin wall and I have to use a 45 millimeter lens to get everybody into this one shot.
For this, you see, for these pretty things that you're looking for, that's what all modern movies are doing wrong. They're
How am I
sacrificing.
sacrificing? It's not
I'll tell you
sacrificing.
why. Because-
It's adding to it.
because- No. What adds to this movie is the smaller set, because it becomes more intimate. It becomes more real. Like Adam said, they're sitting on the fireplace. Like, if you had this bigger set and they all have a comfy couch, that doesn't make this a better movie.
They don't need to.
It
I'm not
makes it-
saying no, Davan. I'm not saying they need a bigger set. The people that need the bigger set are the camera. The people behind the camera. They're the ones that need the bigger set to make it. It can look intimate. It can look small. They can be in a tight cabin. You can do that with better angles and lenses if you had more space to put the camera. But a lot of the
They
time,
would
this
need
movie
a
was
fake
literally
set instead of like a real
A lot of
camera.
the time,
They
this
need to,
movie,
like, build a
you could
stage.
tell the cameraman was stuck in the corner of the room because they had nowhere else to film, and they needed to get the people that they had in the shot, and they didn't have the time to do coverage shots and get everyone's reactionary. There are literally scenes in this movie where the color difference is changed because they're definitely cutting between two different days of filming, and the
So you just
lighting
don't
is
like
off
the
because
editing.
they're going off
You
of
just don't like the
of
editing of this
natural
movie.
lighting. What?
You just don't like the editing of this movie. Like
The editing in this movie,
you'd
the
get
ad-
somebody
the
to
sound-
do a little post, and you'd have been happy with the whole thing. But like, to me, that's
it's more than that. I don't think you completely grasp like the amount of work that goes into producing something that looks like a seamless image, like the movie that we'll talk about here, hopefully in the next 10 minutes.
But my point
65.
is, none of that shit matters, man. I would rather have
does
an interesting
matter.
conversation for an hour and a half, which
Davan,
no movie
it
ever
does
has.
matter. Yeah,
No, let me
it
finish.
does matter.
I'd
I'm going
rather
to tell
have
you why.
an interesting conversation for an hour and a half, because no movie has that, rather than watching another shallow, flashy movie that has all the production values in the world. There's a million of them that come out every friggin' day that look great, and they're shallow and unmemorable and boring. So
Yeah,
the
and
production
Davan-
value adds no entertainment value to anything.
Davan, what value is your thought-provoking story when it's told through a
Yes.
potato? Who's gonna sit there and listen to your thought-provoking story when it hurts their eyes and their ears to try and understand what your story is.
The good thing about listening to a thought-provoking story is you don't even need your eyes. You can listen.
Davin, again, the words are if it hurts to listen to and watch. Hurts to listen to.
It doesn't.
So my thoughts are basically this, is that in this picture, you didn't need the production, and I'm pointing to you, Chris, over there.
It adds nothing.
It didn't need it. Like, I think we all walked away thinking this is an interesting story. I've got good dialogue. I'm engaged. I would like my friends to go watch this movie. You know, for the production side of it, I would agree. If 65, which we're going to talk about here next, didn't have, at least it didn't look good, I would have checked out in the beginning.
I don't think it did look good.
That's you don't.
I mean, it
think
looked
anything
okay for like
of this era
a
looks
direct to streaming thing. It looked okay, but like if
This
that
is
were
a
a
movie
feature
theater
film
release.
nowadays, it would look very bad. No, it was not.
Yes, it was.
What? Then it does look bad. The CGI in those dinosaurs is friggin' awful. Jurassic Park looked better in 1991 or 3 or whenever.
It really did.
It way better.
Yeah, that
Way
movie
better.
holds up. Listen,
Yeah,
I think we've spoken
like-
enough about Man from Earth. We need to move on.
But we're about to talk about a movie whose production values are apparently very good, but looks worse than a movie made in 1993. So let's just keep that in mind while we're reviewing 65. So here in Theater 3, we have 65 from 2023, starring Adam Driver. Gray Paint. Adam Driver, and what is this? Oh, and Ariana Greenblatt. Directed by Scott Beck and Brian Woods. I can't believe it took 2 people to direct this movie. But anyway, let's fire up a trailer for this one, shall we? It'll probably tell you the whole movie.
Location unknown.
Charter 373. This is Commander Mills. My
Here's
ship
the
was
thing
hit
about
by
this.
an undocumented asteroid.
This is like a Star Trek reference I can make too. Like everything I love about Star Trek was in the last movie.
35 passengers.
This movie feels like a B plot of a single Star Trek episode. Like, there's not even enough here to fill 40 minutes of Star Trek. It's
I
just
would
like
say the same
B
thing. When I watched this film, I'm like, this could have been a Star Trek episode and would have been way better.
But not even like the B plot. Like there's still no meat of a Star Trek episode here. It's just like
I bet you
the
anything.
B story
This
is
is
O'Brien.
This is
crashes
what
on
the
a
next
planet,
episode of Strange New Worlds is going to be.
and then gets out.
This is
Crap,
on fighting the
I just
Gorn.
did your recap, Murphy. They crash on a planet. They get off the planet. This is the recap.
One survivor.
Yeah, and the people in your last movie sat in a room and then they left the room. There's your recap.
But they actually talk about things.
Yeah, well, these guys had trouble talking because they didn't understand each other. Oh wow, he didn't do that in this scene. Did you see that where he's like marking trees? He didn't do that in the movie.
They do that all the time with new trailers. They put shit in there that's not in the movie.
Yeah, I know. I hate when they do that.
You can get sued for that now. They're not allowed to. A law just passed about that. It's
like false
considered like
advertising.
misleading advertising. Yeah, they're not allowed to do it.
Yeah.
Like there was no tension. Like I had to try to
No,
watch
there
this
was.
movie 3 times
Okay.
and I fell asleep every time. It was awful. One of the worst movies we featured on this podcast.
I don't know about that. I thought it was alright.
It was just such a nothing burger.
Yes, it is largely a nothing burger.
But like that's the thing. Like this is my problem in the comparison to the last movie. The last movie was the opposite of this. There's so many versions of this now, which are just high-priced nothing burgers that I'm fucking sick of it, and I can't handle even one more of them. But like in like The Man from Earth is like an antidote to that, where I now feel refreshed and maybe I can handle a couple more nothing burgers.
So I went to see this in the actual theater last year, and I rewatched it on a plane a couple weeks ago. And in both times, like I took my daughter, and we both came out thinking, I just spent $20 on this picture.
On that, yeah.
It was like the trailer was good. I was entertained. I said, I gotta go see this because it had potential.
Dinosaurs.
Yeah.
You just want to see dinosaurs. Anything with dinosaurs.
It's just the
and I'm like,
concept
all right,
of a man crashing on Earth 65 million years ago. Like,
and I got to say too
through.
is that the first 10 minutes of the scene on the beach with the daughter, and she's sick, blah blah blah. She's got to get money, so he's taking this mission. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, but kind of cliche. Like that's
Well,
like the start of
sure,
every
but,
movie now.
You got to do a hook, right? So that was interesting to me. Then
no one worked too hard to make this movie. I'll tell you that much. At least with their brains.
I have a real problem with Adam Driver. I find he's the same guy in every movie,
and so boring.
Like,
Murphy's going to take us to task here because he's an Adam Driver fan, but Adam and I are of the same mind here, where he just
Adam
comes
Driver.
off as charisma-less. Like he hasn't. I don't understand. Every time that he's hired for something, I'm like, why did they pick him? It makes no sense. But
because the man has the ability to have gravitas, and he has the ability to add gravitas and deepness to a lot of his roles.
I do not see that at any movie he's done. Like I'm thinking of like, first of all, there was a movie with anyway, he's a wife, and they separate. I can't remember that one.
Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, good movie.
Yeah,
she was great. He sucked. You know,
I haven't seen that one, so I can't speak on it.
Then there was the zombie.
He comes off as amateurish and out of the league of the other actors in the movies he's in. I find.
I just find him
the
awkward.
zombie one I have seen.
Yeah,
he plays a character.
Awkward.
You know, he plays a character.
He doesn't feel comfortable in his own skin or in the role or something. It just doesn't.
And
nothing
he
ever
wasn't
comes off as
scary
authentic or
as
interesting.
He wasn't scary as Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren.
No, that was laughably bad acting. His Kylo Ren stuff. Like they don't. It's Star Wars. You don't have any script to work with. But
okay, so
he didn't bring anything.
His Kylo Ren isn't great, but like he's great in the film Black Klansman. It's basically he works as like an undercover cop, and he has to like infiltrate.
I've heard good things
a
about
KKK.
that.
Remember that movie's great. He's great in that film.
Yeah,
but like that's not a good.
He
ratio.
has the ability to be a good actor. Now, is he
He's usually
good in this
stinky.
film? He's serviceable. He's obviously the only actor in the film, so he holds it together to a degree.
But you need something.
I was surprised.
Somebody with natural charisma in a movie that has nothing to offer script wise or anything. You need somebody who's just like, you know, like you could stick like, I don't know who's got natural charisma. Like, it's not the right pick for this movie, but you know, like you can throw like Ryan Reynolds into things, and he seems to elevate it a bit with his charisma. Guys like that, you know.
See, I feel Adam Driver was the good pick for this film.
I really, because the problem for me is I really like Ariana Greenblatt. I thought she, again, didn't speak much, but
didn't say anything, but fine.
But she was visually, like you could see the expressions in her face. She as a child, you know, I felt that she was afraid. You know, she was mistrusting. All that. I didn't feel he had. I mean, get it. That was not the purpose in the beginning, but it evolved. It just didn't evolve enough for me. That's all. That relationship.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not going to sit here and defend this film by
emote.
any means.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to try and defend this by any means. I picked this film because one, it's it was prehistory. There's dinosaurs. It fit the theme of the movie. It's brand new, pretty much. So I was like, all right, this is probably a really good example. Davan will probably shit on it. I'm sure he will. I may even shit on it. I needed to see it.
It's not good.
Literally 30 minutes before I started watching this movie, CinemaSins dropped an everything wrong with on this film. Literally 30 minutes right before I pressed play, and I was like, oh, that's not a good sign. And then I
This is
proceeded
a
to watch
10-second
the film.
video. It's everything wrong with 65. The movie. The end.
Yeah, it was like 18 minutes, and it got like 161 cents. It was
Because
pretty
it's
funny.
a nothing burger. And it's frustrating
Well,
to see all the money spent on all this nothing burger shit.
You know what really bothered me about it?
Frustrating. Let art start. Spend money on fucking art for once. Like,
you got through the whole
Jesus
movie
Christ.
and to the end, and then they're out. They get through the atmosphere, and then it just there was nothing more. Like,
It was just he crash landed and then got off the planet.
Okay.
That was the whole plot.
Yeah, so the film it starts like in the like this galaxy, and we're introduced to this like planet Samaris, and he's on this beach, and the only I think they needed to explore more of his society and his world and his Samaris, because like the only thing you get from his planet is that like in the distance the rocks are curvy, you know, like I don't know if I have a
But
shot
that's
of
not
it
the point
but-
here. The point isn't to build this world up. They want you to forget about
Well,
that.
no, it's
You're right,
The fact
but
that they're going
I
to
think there would have been more to it if we. Because I didn't fall in love with anybody in this movie. I didn't care.
It would have
about
been a better
Exactly.
sci-fi movie if they'd.
Yeah,
gotten into more of the
if there was
sci-fi
more
elements.
explanation on his world a bit and his society and his technology, not just like a placeholder and he's just thrown on a ship and he's just like on this boat and they come across an asteroid field and it just like crashes. It can't divert. It doesn't have any sort of like whatever. It just crashes into it and he wakes up from his like nightmare and he tries to figure it out and this thing just straight crashes into the planet.
You know those pitch meeting videos you see on YouTube or whatever? Like they do like the fake pitch
Yeah.
meetings or whatever.
Wow. yeah.
Yeah, like
Wow.
I feel like
yeah.
How this movie got pitched is somebody walked into a room and it's just like, I got this great idea. It's the best idea. So this time traveler crash lands on Earth 65 million years ago. But he's not a time traveler. He's an alien that looks human. Dun dun dun. That's the hook. That's the twist. That's the whole movie.
Wow.
That's how it
Let's
happened.
make it. Well, you know, basically crashes. We get Davan's choice for the best scene, which was this.
I guess. Like, this is like the one scene where maybe there was a half a second of tension. Of real tension. Because he's in water, and water's scary.
Oh, we've seen this before. It was called Dagobah.
But it's like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But again, even this scene is a nothing burger scene. But it's just like, of all the nothing burger scenes, it's just like, hey, water's creepy.
You know what also kills me about this is like you got this thing swimming and arching its back and all this. He's only in knee-deep water.
Yeah.
It's probably just like some type
so
of like,
dumb.
eel or snake or something.
But then it would be knocking him over, like in that proximity. Like if it couldn't go under him and around, like, yeah, man. Like nobody worked their brains very hard to make this movie, and too much money was spent for no one to spend 5 minutes thinking. And it's frustrating. I understand the content wars and everyone just needs to fill their streaming services up with garbage, but man, try a little harder. There's tons of people they could pay that same friggin' money to who would do a better job. That's all. Like they just hire the worst people to make everything now, it seems. Like let's just get our people who will just cash the check and not ask us any hard questions.
When was this actually produced? Do we know that? Like what year?
Like 2021, 22, something like that, I think.
It's a COVID movie.
COVID movie.
Yeah.
It's like, how do we make a movie during COVID? 2 actors. That's how we do it.
Pretty much.
So yeah, Adam Driver's Mills
CGI,
character
lots of
basically,
CGI.
at this point has discovered that his crew are all dead, and he decides to put a bullet in his head, but he doesn't because he remembers his daughter. He sent a message saying nobody needs to survive, but he decided to go back. And it's like, okay, wait. On second thought, come rescue me because I found a survivor, which is Ariana Greenbald's character, Koa.
It's a good thing they gave us no reason to care about any member of that dead crew. Good storytelling.
Yeah. Then in like 18 minutes into the film, we finally get the opening credits, which was a bold editing choice. Yeah. The scenery of this film, like the outside stuff, looked cool, and the ship was kind of like neat.
I agree. I like this all. I liked how it looked because this is what the only thing that kept me going was how it looked.
Yeah.
Here's my problem. See, is with how it looked. So, a lot of the plants, for example, that you see in this movie,
Are
in fact,
definitely
pretty much
not
every single
of that
one
era.
of them, none of them. There were no. Let me say this very clearly: 0 flowering plants 65 million years ago. You know how old flowering plants are? Same age as humans, basically. That's how old flowering plants are. They have not been around very long. Yet they find flowers all over the place. They even pick them in this friggin' movie. I'm like, there are no flowering plants. Somebody get paid $5 to think in the making of this movie.
So I'm going to say the
nobody
same thing
will.
to say to Chris is like in the last movie. I don't care about that. I don't care about how the room looked, and I don't care about the flowering plants because to me.
No, but that's a big part of this movie. This
Yeah,
is
but you
supposed to be 65 million years ago Earth, so make it look like it. Don't you think?
No,
But how
I
would they
don't
know what it
because
looks like?
you got to have some colors. You got to.
We do know.
You have to make the set look a little entertaining, and if you just had all green, it's going to look boring.
No, not green. See, that's the thing. 65 million years ago, if they actually went with that landscape, it would have cost them more money, obviously, because they just filmed in BC or whatever, where there's a bunch of evergreen trees, and that's your prehistoric Earth. But there should have been, like,
not in BC, but they
friggin'
do have spots.
40-foot tall horsetails, those little weeds you see in your garden.
Now that would have
40
been
foot tall
that.
versions of
Okay,
those.
that
There should have
would have been entertaining to me.
There should have been 20-foot tall mushrooms.
Yes.
Like the tallest plants that existed at that time. Well, mushrooms aren't plants. Were friggin' mushrooms at the time.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
ferns.
Cool. That would have been cool.
Like it would have been fascinating to look at. That would have it would have added that sort of quest for fire element where it's trying to be a little more scientifically real. It could have used that.
All right.
Yeah.
Add some
Like this-
intelligence to this movie somewhere, please. Like,
Yeah,
that's all
it was basically a very polished Netflix story. You know, there wasn't that much thought into the actual production.
Polish is a
of-
bad thing. That's it's never an innocuous thing. To add polish to a movie, you end up removing things that are more important.
But
I find and that's
it's
why
not-
most movies suck now.
No, there's a baseline of quality that we're at. All movies are gonna look like this now. If they don't, then people don't want to give them attention.
Some people,
because
young people.
the
But not
majority
everything
of
should be made
people,
for young
and when you're
people.
trying to
There's a
get your
Boston
movie
Legal
out
about
to as
that
many
episode
people
about
as
that.
possible, you know, you need to make it so that as many people as possible want to watch it. And if it's of low quality,
exactly.
you're not
That's
getting
the
your message out
sacrifice
there.
you've made. You've gentrified your story.
Well,
That's what I'm talking
definitely
about.
they
You've
had to
gentrified your art. You've just sacrificed your art to appease the masses, and
but
that's
guys-
every single friggin' studio decision these days, and that's why movies suck. That's why we don't get the Towering Inferno anymore. We don't get Doctor Strangelove. We don't get these movies anymore because those wouldn't appeal to enough people in studios' minds to actually make a good movie. That's the problem. That's what keeps happening. That's what this movie is. This movie is the perfect studio movie. I'm sure they were shaking hands and patting themselves on the back about how great this movie is.
What did it
Guaranteed they
do?
were.
What was the box office on this?
I didn't even think it went to theater, so it can't have been much.
Yes, it did go. You're
Yeah.
gonna be real
Well, yeah, Adam
surprised
saw
when
it
I
in
get to
theater.
those numbers. Okay, so before we get ahead of ourselves, this is where we get to the point in the story where Mills discovers that there's the remainder of his ship is on a mountain. This is the scene that I think holds up in the movie. This is the scene in the movie where I was actually entertained. I was like, okay, this is an entertaining part.
Section of the Zoic located. Distance to escape
And I'll explain
vessel
why.
15 kilometers.
He looks over the crest here. He sees a group of velociraptors, and you think you're about to see a T-Rex bust into the woods, and then that fucking thing jumps at the screen.
Jump scared, cheap.
No,
This is a
not
jump
cheap.
scare. Those
No,
are known for
you know
being cheap.
why?
Exactly.
Wrong one.
He couldn't even say why.
No, shut up. Okay, I pressed the wrong button. What happened is that is a legitimate jump scare because I've watched movies for many, many years. I can tell when a jump scare is coming. I was watching that scene, and that scene scared the shit out of me. I was like, "Holy shit!" Like,
No,
I
the whole
actually,
point
like,
about jump scares is you don't see them coming. That's what makes them a jump scare, Murphy.
Yes,
That's the
but no.
definition of a jump scare. A scare
Yes,
you
and
didn't see coming.
and 99% of all jump scares, I see them coming, and then they
Then
never
those are
terrify
jump
me.
scares.
But
Yeah,
they're
but this
all the
one's good.
same. The cliche of a jump scare is the same. It's they have the similar setup, and you know it's gonna come, and you just prepare yourself, and it happens eventually, and you're not scared by it. That one had it didn't have the typical signs of, or cliche preparations of a jump
Yes,
scare.
it did.
legitimately
It's just
scared.
jump
me. It
scares are when
legitimately
you're
scared
looking
me.
through one thing and then you like binoculars and you take them down. Something jump scares you. He's looking at a screen. He takes that down. Something jumps at him. That's exactly how every jump
He
scare
wasn't
is
looking at a
staged,
screen.
Murphy.
He dropped the screen and then he looks over.
Yes,
a
he
cliff,
was.
And no, okay, Davin. He
Oh,
looks
yeah,
over a
yes, he
cliff.
looks over the
right?
cliff. Yeah,
he looks over the cliff, and your attention is brought to the squad of velociraptors running from a T-Rex that's about to burst through the woods. So your attention is drawn to that, and out of the corner, this thing jumps out of the. I didn't expect it. It terrified me, and I thought it was great. It was a part
One
of the
thing I
film
do
that
like
really
is they
entertained me.
scaled down the velociraptors. I'll give them that. Every other dinosaur they put in this movie does not look like a dinosaur. They just gave them these giant ogre hind ends, and they look like demons from like friggin' one of those demon movies. Can't remember the names at the right moment, but yeah,
Stranger
At least they
Things?
scaled down the velociraptors to a more reasonable size. That's my big nitpick with Jurassic Park.
So yeah, Mills and Co. ultimately, they band together and the missions get to the roof. She starts going through like all of his private videos, and you start getting these hints that his daughter obviously didn't survive her
I'm telling you, that's a friggin' modern cliche that drives me nuts too. Every movie now kills a child, usually a small girl, to elicit emotions, and it's just cheap. And my God, is it a horrible friggin' cliche? And I hate
Well,
it.
can I talk about something good here? I also like the fact when his little monitor or whatever identified the meteor or the asteroid coming.
Yeah, that part I like too.
Yeah.
Like 65 million years ago.
anomaly.
Like that's the one. There's two things I like about this movie, and I don't even know if I like is the right word. One is the fact that he's an alien and not a time traveler. I didn't want a timey-wimey movie. But the other one is that they tie in the time frame to the meteor crash. It's just like it's like the end of any evidence he would have left with his technologies or anything, because then the meteor immediately comes down and destroys all his evidence. So that's fine. Those are like the two slightly smart elements in the story, I guess. There's the flowering plants that shouldn't be there. Get that flower out of my face.
I liked his little food thing where he like puts a berry in and he's like, don't eat, because it like tests if things are poisonous or not.
Like, look at this thing. That thing was so stupid. That's not what dinosaurs look like.
It reminded me of Godzilla from like that 2000 Godzilla
Yes!
movie.
Yes!
No, Skull Island, King Kong.
Oh, yeah, that kind of shit too. Yes, all these weird kind of dinosaur lizard creatures they keep making in movies. Yeah.
But at least in Skull Island, it was believable because it didn't matter.
They're not dinosaurs.
You didn't have to have them looking good, but these are just...
So I've got a pretty big movie morsel about the whole dinosaur design and stuff, but these ones are closest to what the actual dinosaurs look like. These like pterosauruses, yeah, it's just kind of like one scene after another of just like this shit's happening. He saves her from some dinosaurs, but she's so freaked out that they end up chilling out for basically until the sun's down. And they start whistling at each other.
I've never been friggin' less excited to see dinosaurs in a movie, though. Every time I saw one, I was just like, I wanted to be excited about that, but wasn't.
Yeah.
Except for that one shot, actually, where it's darkness and then you sort of see the T-Rex. That was kind of a good shot.
Yeah, here where it's like the flash.
Yeah, it's right there.
But you've seen that shot in Jurassic Park.
It's a stolen shot, but it still works.
Yeah, nostalgia for sure. These two eventually like make their way through the cave. Yeah, there really isn't that much to this movie. I'm not.
They get off the planet.
I'm not trying. They eventually, the
meteor hits.
They got to get to the mountain and get to their escape pod, which
the micrometeors start hitting at one point.
Yeah, the micrometeors, and they get launched in. Ko is pretty upset that her family's not there, and he's like, "No, I'll be your family now." When they get upside down,
thing, he just lies to her. She's like, "No, your parents are on top of the mountain."
After watching Greenland, I these micrometeors did nothing for me. Greenland did
no.
That was really cool.
Greenland was a good movie. Greenland was so a good movie.
They did the asteroids way better. Yeah, we had this whole scene where it's like, okay, well, he's got to fight the dinosaurs, and you got to implement her poison berry tooth that she fucking stowed away in her backpack. Like that, the whole last scene was just like predictable and like cheesy. He gets into a geyser and she comes running out of nowhere and stabs it in the eye and like.
Okay, at least it kept a consistent tone of meaningless and cheesy.
Yeah. This was just the ending was awful. Awful.
Everything was.
What's that rock formation? Here. What's that rock formation in the back? What is that?
It's supposed to look alien. It's supposed to so it looks like an alien world.
That's the only thing we get on Alien about this planet. It could have used more. They could have explored the ideas more. They could have, did that.
Well, here's another thing. Say, can you go back a screen? I know this may be controversial, but I know I'm not the only one who thinks this way. Most things Sam Raimi touches are boring as shit. Sam Raimi is overrated. Almost everything he does is bad.
Yes, I completely agree. That's not a hot take.
Yeah.
In fact, he's the one that pretty much ruined that last Doctor Strange movie, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, he made it way more boring than it otherwise would have been. Yeah, I wanted to see the Scott Derrickson.
It's actually true. When I saw Sam Raimi as a producer at the beginning, I was like, oh, shoot. Now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize he was producing the film until I started watching it. I picked this movie because,
there's certain big names we've come to...
It wasn't great.
We've come to learn to avoid on this show. Like, when certain names come up, we're like, oh, this is a Rob Reiner film, you say. We're like, oh boy, we get a little nervous. There's a lot of big names, and even Ron Howard. Like, is hit or miss because he's just a Ron Howard film is a Ron Howard film, and it's just like they can get pretty tired after a while. So a lot of the big names, I don't know, they don't always ring so successful on this.
Adam, was there any scene in that movie that you felt held up? Because is there any favorite scene in that movie for you?
I did like the use of I said, the technology, the tricorder, for a better use of the word. I liked the little grenades. I thought they were kind of cool that he threw at the little.
Yeah.
I wish the relationship between him and the girl was better. So no. Look,
they didn't.
It's like they saw Logan and let's make a worse version of Logan.
Yeah, I didn't love it.
I don't know.
Yeah, it could have done without the lost in translation bit. Like
so you're right. So I mean, the fact is I fly a lot with work and there's a lot of movies that you see on, but I don't even know why I put it on, guys. Like I think I knew we were coming to this and I thought maybe I'd give it another chance, but I can't believe I watched this movie twice in a year.
Yeah, and you paid for it once.
Mm-hmm.
That's the hard part. Like seeing it free on a plane.
Yeah.
Is there any performance you'd hold up? The little girl, I guess, for me, but
Adam Driver held up for me. He kept it together. Like, honestly, I don't think if
he's
there's
serviceable,
else,
but he just adds nothing.
Well, no, he does because
anything for me.
I feel like he did. There's moments of emotion and humor that he brought to the table in such a way that I felt like probably would have been not as well portrayed by another actor. I feel like he was probably the right choice for this film.
He was fine. Like that's all I'm going to say. He's fine.
Yeah.
I think honestly, maybe I'm being hard on him because I think the script sucks so much.
Well, there was no script. This movie didn't have a plot or a script, and yet it still got made because it had dinosaurs.
It had a shoestring plot.
The B plot of a bad Star Trek episode. Setting aesthetic, not good. Well, for one, the setting was wrong. Nothing in the setting existed in that time. So one thing that it's just a complete failure. Even if it looks good, it's completely wrong. It's a failure. This is 65 million years ago. They didn't even try. And the CGI was bad. A couple of scenes it was okay, but a lot of times it was glaringly bad. And their weird design choices for dinosaurs and shit.
Yeah, not all the dinosaurs.
The meteors
were
looked bad too. The meteors looked like cartoons or something like.
It felt Netflixy.
Yeah. Okay. I thought it was. I'm shocked it wasn't. I'm shocked this was in the theaters. It just screams. Direct to
I think it found that hole of COVID where there was nothing. Like you got these giant megaplexes with not enough products.
I thought they could get some extra money out of it that way, and they probably did because there was nothing else in the theaters. Murphy's going to tell us how much money this made, and it's probably because there was nothing else in the theater at the time.
And that coming back to my initial conversation at the beginning is like to get back into the movie theaters, and I want to. There just isn't enough that draws me back.
I've been maybe 2 or 3 times in the last year, if that.
Last movie I saw in theaters was Bert Kreischer's The Machine.
Whoa.
Which was really funny. Good.
All right, well, you got some morsels for us, I assume, here, Murphy.
Yeah, just a few. Movie morsels for 2023 is 65 million years ago. The warning sound made by the ship's computer just after the crash was first used 70 years ago as the sound effect for the Martian walkers in the 1953 Paramount production of War of the Worlds. Filming began in December 2020 in New Orleans and wrapped in late February 2021. In January 2021, filming occurred in Kisatchie National Forest, Louisiana, for the swamp scenes. Several locations in Oregon were also used for the redwood forest scenes. And Mayor's
Creek didn't
Beach
even look like real swamps.
Mayor's Creek Beach and Gold Beach, Coos Bay, Whales Head Beach, and Brookings, Agnes, and Elk Creek Falls. These are all the locations they filmed. As a Marine,
this filmed was in Chile or somewhere where there's still scale trees, because that's all there would have been for trees back then.
As a Marine, this is the first in Adam Driver's film career where he utilizes his weapons training from his old career. Composer Danny Elfman was originally attached to this project, but he was replaced by a frequent collaborator, Chris Bacon. Elfman still retains credits on select tracks.
It was forgettable, the music in this. Completely forgettable.
The film's dinosaurs went through many phases of development. Early concept art shows more scientifically grounded, realistic prehistoric animals, including herbivores and Allosaurus, pre-dinosaur animal distantly related to mammals, which suggests the film at one point might have been set in the Triassic period around 250 to 200 million years ago.
But they wanted 65 in the title so they could smash a meteor into the planet at the end.
Yeah, rather than late Cretaceous.
Well, you know what? It sped the movie up, Davan. They got to get out of here.
It's true.
Ultimately, attempts at realism were rejected as fantasy dinosaurs were considered better suited for a science fiction thriller. Thus, feathered dinosaurs like raptors appear in the film as scaly creatures resembling 1970s and 80s reconstructions with quills instead of
sci-fi set in a galaxy far, far away like Star Wars, or is it supposed to be Earth 65 million years ago? Like, they couldn't decide what they were doing here. They're like, do they want to make up all new creatures? And, like, man, mixed signals. Like, I don't think they knew what they wanted to do. You got no volume there, Murph. Still, there you go.
Yeah, it's basically it. Cinematography, Salvatore Totino, edited by Jane Tones and Josh Schaefer, music by Chris Bacon. Release date, March 10th, 2023, running time, 93 minutes.
Here comes the money.
Budget of $45 million and a box office of $60.7 million.
Oh, that's a failure. They didn't even make their money back then.
No,
they didn't even make their money back. With marketing, they've lost money. And maybe they'll get it from selling it to streamers, but...
Yeah, it'll make it over time. And
maybe. But things don't have longevity now just because they get lost in the shuffle of so much
content. Yeah, that's pretty forgettable. I'm not telling anybody to watch this movie. Sorry.
No, I tell them not to.
Yeah. Don't waste your time.
And again, the thing that this... Again, I still can't believe you poo-pooed The Man from Earth, Murphy, because one thing you have to admit about that movie is it's somebody's artistic vision. It's actually a work of art, whether you like the execution of it or not. Like, there's a lot of paintings I don't like because it's painting, and I just don't care about paintings. But they're great works of art, and I know that. That's what The Man from Earth is. Like, to me, it's like almost, I feel like that movie's like undisputably good. Because even if you don't like it, it's just such a good work of art. But, like, and this is the opposite. There's not one artistic element to 65. It's just made by committee in strange ways. Like, someone in that committee is like, that dinosaur looks too much like a dinosaur. And they changed it. Like, it's like, what kind of strange committee were they running? A lot of drugs were involved, I believe. I'm not sure what kinds. Not the good ones. Because a lot of the good ones will make people do art. Anyway, I could ramble about this crap movie for a while, but I won't. Rewatchability. I think we can poo-poo that. Adam watched it. Adam, you're the only one here who's watched it more than once.
Sorry.
It was a mistake, he says. Does it hold up?
No.
No, it doesn't.
One of the worst movies ever made. Probably.
I wouldn't say that.
Worst movies ever made, but it's just not. It's not great, but it's not terrible.
It's forgettable. It's forgettable.
I'm more offended now these days in the age of like so much content. I'm more offended by nothingness than true badness. I'd rather see something that's horribly bad than just something that's nothing. Like, I feel nothing
movie of
while
all
I'm watching
time.
it. I feel nothing once it's over. Just nothingness. Prehistoric movie rankings. For me, it's going to be Man from Earth, Quest for Fire, 65.
Same.
I get Quest for Fire, Man from Earth, 65.
Okay. Well, let's. I'll bring this pretty little chart up here, and we can see where we have left things. So here we have it. Oops. There we go. So we have one addition to the A movies, one addition to the B movies, and one addition to the C movies today. So across the board, we've gone today. Still have more A movies than anything else, and still the fewest C movies, but they are dramatic in their badness. Don't watch any of them.
Oh, really? The Apartment, huh?
Oh, God, it was awful.
God.
We're going to have to explain that to Andre when he comes on for episode 20, because he... Anyway.
Okay, yeah. I would, not today, but I'd love to know where you guys came with A Bridge Too Far.
It was just boring. It was
really
long, boring, and it's hard to tell what's going on. Like, they cut away a lot to other things, and it's just...
I love that movie. Okay.
Really? When's the last time you saw it?
Like last year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Look, it has merit. We did say, like, a lot of the battle scenes have realism to them and stuff. Mike Henry was telling us all about how realistic the battles were. But even Mike Henry poo-pooed it, and he loves that kind of stuff. It was just... We had watched 2 other war movies for that episode, and they were significantly better.
Oh, it's long. It's long. It's for sure. Yeah.
Like, we watched... What did we watch? We watched 1914, which was a great new movie. And Bridge on the River Kwai, which is one of my favorite movies ever now.
I liked Bridge Too Far because of just the magnitude of the practical stunts and effects and the stuntmen that they used. They had like thousands.
Oh, they spent money on that movie.
Yeah, like yeah.
That's thousands.
It's also very gray. Like, it's very just dull to look at.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Kind of miss
more movies
like
tend to find a way to be more exciting than that one was.
As you're going through that movie, though, you just keep going, holy crap, there's Sean Connery. There's, Rick Berger.
Anthony Hopkins.
There's
Gene Hackman was such a waste in that film.
Oh, my God. He was, him and his silly voice.
He really was. He was terrible. But the, Elliot Gould, there's oh my God, over and over again. So,
so many. Yeah. They spent so much money. I mean, that's what I mean. There's so much money in that movie. I mean, directed by Richard Attenborough, and but man, it was a stinker for me. But yeah, so that's where we are there. Well, thanks for joining us, Adam. We have a new segment here before.
That was really fun.
Well, thanks. It was contentious. This is a contentious episode. Every now and then we get one.
Every now and then.
I blame Murphy, and so do the listeners, but. That's why we have him here. He brings the entertainment factor in his contentiousness. Murphy, we're a good team that way. We don't agree on movies ever. So, except for 65, it sucks.
There's a few we've agreed on.
It's true. Every A movie we had to have agreed on. Same with the C's, for that matter. So actually, we don't.
Let's go home.
That
Let's
often,
call
I
it.
Guess.
Wrap it up.
All right. So, Final Take is our new segment. It's like Jerry Springer's Final Thoughts, but it's me. And I think what we've seen here is that there are similarities and insights, wisdoms and witticisms and lessons to be learned no matter how far back we look into this great and grand interconnected past we share with everything else. And that some things never expire, but that most things do. From stardust to sentience to whatever comes next, we await with popcorn in hand and with open ears and open eyes, but with one looking back.
You're still going on these 3 movies?
We're done. Dave's here for spare change.
I just finished my podcast, and I saw you, which you were already on when I started it, and then I finished it, and I came out here.
Look, Murphy upset me tonight, and when I get upset, we get an extra hour on the podcast.
The Big Brother podcast was an hour and a half, so it was. Lord. Yeah.
Murphy upset me more than the American president upset me tonight.
Oh man, that's pretty upsetting. So
it was very upsetting.
I pointed out that there was plot holes in Man from Earth, and he just couldn't handle it.
Which we immediately closed. But anyway, let the listeners decide.
Did all 3 hold up?
No, we have an A, a B, and a C tonight.
Oh, okay. Well, a little bit of everything. That's good, right?
A little bit of everything across the board. My choice wasn't
should
the
have
best,
been 2 A's.
Well, it was, split decisions.
Well, let's hit the trailer, shall we?
Yeah, so I mean,
And hit the showers.
Well, yeah, okay. Before we do that, we're a part of a United Federation of podcasts.
Skip
we
the
talk
plugs.
about things.
It's late.
Skip the plugs. We do Star Trek.
Check out our website.
Check out our website. UF Podcasts. There's all sorts of podcasts. X-rated, Mater Brothers, Aiming on Track, Trivial Debates, all that good stuff.
Aiming on, all kinds of good. Check that out. You can find them all. Something for everybody.
Something for everybody. It's we got late into this one. We're gonna be actually, it's time we call it a night because next time we're on Hold Up, we're gonna be traveling through time with 3 picks.
And Jeff Mater.
And Jeff Mater. It's gonna be
we just talked about this.
Fun timey-wimey episode.
So you looking forward to it?
I told me he was a coward for picking Sphere. He should have picked Time Cop.
Is that a cop-out pick? I think he should have picked Time Bandits.
He picked Sphere?
Oh, well.
You picked Sphere.
I picked...
Terrible.
It's a fun episode because Davan and I switched. I get the old one this time, and I pick Time After Time. So let's watch the coming attractions. And as always, thank you for joining us at Hold Up, a movie podcast. And as always, enjoy the movies.
The time is 1893, and novelist and inventor H.G. Wells makes a startling announcement.
Gentlemen, I am talking about traveling through time in a machine constructed for that very purpose.
The first to use the machine, however, is Dr. John Leslie Stevenson, better known to history as Jack the Ripper. And what was to be a voyage of discovery, in an instant becomes a manhunt through time. From 19th century England to 20th century San Francisco.
Time after time.
Certainly, certainly. You were literally the last person on Earth I expected to see. You've given me quite a turn.
What year is this movie?
I'm obliged to take you back
70s.
to face the consequences of your acts. Take me
David
back.
Warner
I'd
there.
propose to do that by
A young David Warner.
1979.
We don't belong here.
A 19th century gentleman.
Are you quite certain I'm not forced?
This movie
to
looks
do
very
anything?
boring. Whew, I hope it
A
isn't.
20th century woman.
That's Mary Steam version?
It is.
I just wanted somebody to pick Time Bandits
Join
instead.
forces
I want to pick someone to
capture
pick
a
Time
criminal
Cop.
from the past.
No.
At large in the modern world. But
This
even
movie
more
looks
than
amazing.
they want him, he needs
That's
them.
what I'm saying.
This is
It
a
doesn't
long
look like
trailer.
a time travel movie.
Release the girl.
But
On your honor, John. You have my word as a gentleman.
This is like the whole movie, like a trailer.
That is just one thing.
man, trailers,
Would have
half of them we
expected that you'd
watch
notice
on
by
the
now
show or
that I am
give
not
away
a
everything.
Say goodbye.
Works for recaps.
Goodbye, Herbert.
Goodbye, Herbert.
You haven't instructed him in the use of one of these machines, have you?
Herbert, 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 Herbert.
HG, it's checkmate, and you've lost again.
Checkmate.
A romantic adventure, a breathless chase around the
Try
world
reaching, Herbert.
and across a
You
century.
gotta reach.
We reach.
Time after time.
Pretty good score.
Huh? That looks awful. But we'll see.
Probably better than 65.
Has to be. It's got actors in it. David Warner.
Malcolm McDowell.
McDowell.
What did you tell him?
Oh, is this a Michael
What did I tell him?
Crichton?
I told him I was here to see the plane crash. That's my job. Good. There was no plane crash. Spacecraft. But that was a report about a possible encounter with an alien being. You want to come with me? You are the human contact team that was recommended in the Goodman report. We have a biochemist to assess the physiology of the unknown life form. We have a mathematician, because that'll probably be our common language. And we have an astrophysicist.
Is that Samuel L. Jackson?
Sure is.
Try to relax.
So you're saying that you have a fuselage from a spacecraft over a half a mile long that crashed into the ocean 300 years ago and it's completely intact?
That's right. And the kicker is, something's still running inside.
You can't have an action movie of this type from this era without Liev Schreiber, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, Lee Schreiber, Dustin Hoffman. Yeah.
Sharon Stone.
Sharon
Is there
Stone.
heat coming off this thing, or is it just happy to see me?
Or is that just you, Sharon? Are we in Basic Instinct all of a sudden?
Anybody else wonder who the hell opened that door?
Fucking shark ate me.
Sick of these motherfucking sharks. These motherfucking spheres.
I don't know.
Hey, that much.
Don't grab
What is it?
Smokehouse almonds.
It's an American spaceship.
In the 8,000 years of recorded history,
God, this is a long trailer.
You are now online with an alien intelligence.
Its name is Jerry.
Seinfeld?
He's happy. What happens if Jerry gets mad?
Classic.
Do you know how to spell sphere?
This trailer's not long enough. Can we just spell out the title to make it last a little longer?
SP.
Out there.
Oh boy, I'm not looking forward to next week's or 2 weeks' episode. At least I picked a good movie.
I mean, you've got
Here's
the
my
$400
pick.
billion. You've gone the charity route. You have this perfect.
Again, it's another talking movie that takes place in a room, like The Man from Earth.
How do you feel your day?
Murphy's gonna hate it.
I don't know. It looks better than the other one.
Here's what's going to happen.
It's harder to follow, I'll tell you that.
You're gonna listen. You're gonna stay on the line. And you're not gonna interrupt. You're gonna speak for any reason. Some of this you know. I'm gonna start at the top of the page.
Inside the box, it's like a street. Both ends are cul-de-sac.
They took from their surroundings what was needed and made of it something more.
Aaron, I can imagine no way in which this thing would be considered anywhere remotely close to safe.
They went to a U-Haul storage?
Why not the lottery?
That's where you keep your time machine.
Yep.
You have a margin account, right? For now, though, if you wanted to, you can just tell her you had a good day in the market.
You don't understand. No. You don't understand the questions that come with that, okay?
Hey, whoa, come here for a second. What's on your hand? You bleeding? Did you see that? I swear that was him. What the hell is he doing? Just sitting outside my house at 2 in the morning. There's no way I would tell anyone about this. No way. Can you think of any reason that you might? No, I can't. Sometimes we do things. No, we don't know how we got to that. No, I can't. Can't what? I can't think of any reason why I would.
There was value in the thing, clearly, that they were certain of.
Also, this movie definitely doesn't take place in one room.
A lot of it does. Not in this trailer.
Money.
But
we'll make money.
It's definitely just it's even more dialogue heavy than Man from Earth.
Dialogue heavy is fine. I'm not against that.
This movie does seem boring.
You have to be interested in the